does. Sometimes I don't.
Dude, I figured out a way actually to have OBS save your Discord panels for 3, 4, 5, 6 people.
Yo, how?
You can write. So when you're making the videos, the window, I can just go through it afterwards after the stream.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, like, it's going to take me forever to do it the long scuffed way, so you actually might be able to explain it faster than I can get the video set up.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. I'll share my screen on. Let me share my full screen.
I'm live right now. Do you care if it's showing that?
Thanks for letting me know. I'm good. Thank you, though.
Okay.
Appreciate that. So we're going to go to OBS, and on the bottom left here is my scenes. And basically when I've saved it like 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And I guess you have 6. Yep. Hi, Dr. Win. So basically when you make this window, you want to go to the windows. So like, let's say I need to window capture, right? In order to shrink it down for Discord. So I can get each of you guys separately. It's this option right here, the third one, window match priority, match title, otherwise find window of same executable. So the third one down, so can you see my screen? When you make the windows, you're
showing Discord.
Are you looking at my screen?
Yeah, I'm watching the stream.
What? Weird. I should be streaming my entire screen. 1 second, let me just check. So screen, yeah, my first screen. Lounge. Yeah. This should be it. Yeah, so when you're making the window in order to capture someone, you want to, on the third one down, window match priority, there's window capture method, window match priority, and then you go down to match title, otherwise find window of same executable. So like, let's say I wanted to capture someone, I would go window capture, right? For the scene, I would go in the scene, I would say window capture, and then I would say create new. And then now that would give me a new dialogue. And then I choose what window I want. And normally I could go on this drop down and like choose which window I want. But then I'm trying to go to the bottom one that says match title, otherwise find the same type. Go down again. Because you basically want Discord to be captured in these windows, no matter who or what panel you're in or whatever like that.
Yeah, I think the issue that I have is the fact that like when people join the Discord call, the order gets all fucked up.
Yeah, so what I do there
the issue.
To fix that, I just have different scenes with 3, 4, 5, 6 people. And then as people join, they're in the same position. So then you switch scenes to a 3-person, to a 4-person, to a 5-person. You have to like move the names around sometimes, right? But otherwise it still works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does make sense. I think it's really just in relation to the panels. And speaking of which, probably need to actually make one for Amber eventually. Dude, one of my chatters actually made one for Greg based off of Gremlo's panel. Like, he literally just reordered the fucking letters to spell Greg. It was actually really funny.
Based.
Shout out Whomstintive if you're here.
I have a question. Why don't you guys just capture the whole Discord window? Like, why go through all the trouble? Like, why not just pop out the video call window and just capture that?
Yeah, that's the easier way to do it.
Oh, wait, you can do that?
Yeah. You just click on the channel that you're in, like the voice chat that you're in, and it'll pop up a screen with all the videos, and then there's a pop-out thing at the bottom. Mm-hmm. You can just do that and, like, crop the window part.
With Alt? Yeah.
Or go full screen, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, shit. Seriously?
Yeah, but then you can't do the little titles. I guess you could. I guess you just have to make them bigger and...
So what I do is I just hover over something at the bottom of the screen and it keeps everyone's names up.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Work smarter, not harder.
No, it's true.
But you don't get the cool custom layout, so
here, let me do this. probably. Can I move this down? Yes, I could move this down. All right, I think I probably would have to do one of these. All right, I think we might be in luck here. Might be able to like force crop it to the. Ooh, that's gonna be a little close.
You just order it. Just put the other one on top, the overlay on top.
Yeah, hang on. I need to actually get some music going to get rid of the dead air. All right, now let me go back to this.
Is this good, streams? Is this good?
We're doing it, guys. We're doing it.
Yeah, I see. I see what we're doing now. So then in theory, oops, that's the wrong button. So could just do one of these. All right, and then where's my frame? Order, move to top. All right, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
gonna get fucked up when Maddie joins, but All right, where's Greg's? Order, move to top. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Amber. Jesus Christ. I am an absolute moron when it comes to this, so this is helpful.
I've just been on a computer my entire life, so it comes naturally at this point.
Move to top. All right, there's Gremlo's frame. All right, it's going to be clipping just a little bit, but that's okay. And then I will probably just add text for Amber for the time being. Then shrink it. Oh, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Probably need to put this in the corner. Probably change the font color to black so it's visible. Oof, okay. I think we might be in business. Let me pause the music.
I just read your chat.
Oh god, yeah, I'm just clicking back in the chat.
I need to pull
Thanks,
up your
Jay.
stream.
How to stream 101. Welcome to the class, guys.
Pro streamer.
The hard work that goes into behind the scenes. The documentary.
You really. So we should. It might be easier if we like join 5 minutes before everyone goes live and just like get it all set up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's largely my fault.
No, I didn't know if like that was something you guys did or not. I don't know.
Yeah, we try to do like 30 minutes before if needed.
Yeah, I think usually there's just a bunch of like shooting the breeze pregame chitter chatter going on before, so that like gives me time to unscuff. But
yeah,
thankfully this is unscuffing a lot easier thanks to your help.
yeah.
Actually, let me try and oops. Fuck. Okay, I think this is just gonna have to do for now, and we will figure this out once Maddie is here. Yeah, okay, that clips just a teeny tiny bit.
So if you saved this as a scene and then you duplicate it, and then when Maddie joins, you just go to that 6-person Discord panel, and then you can just like, that's what I do basically.
And just reorder the frames based on who's
exactly.
where.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I will start doing that from now on. That's good shit. All right, it's only just about 10 minutes past the hour, so are we ready? Are we feeling comfy, ready to talk about science?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Yep.
All
Yep,
right.
yep.
Did y'all see the SyncTube link I put in the ministry chat?
I did. Awesome.
Perfect.
Which craft is this?
It allows us to watch a video at the same time. And actually, speaking of, I'm going to add another video about the patent, which will save us the trouble of having to read an article. So let me...
Oh, dude, can you put a playlist together? That's cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Wow.
Let me see. Let me enter the URL and see if it adds it to the playlist. Yes, it does. Perfect.
Look at that.
Alrighty. Cool. So
where is this playlist?
Go to the ministry only chat in Discord. It should be a SyncTube link. I've definitely used this for like watch parties pre-Discord. It's that way y'all can like simultaneously watch the video alongside us and your chats.
Fancy.
It's dope.
All right.
I like
Well,
this.
yeah, it's pretty solid. I think this is probably grounds to get into it. Grumble, I always ask you, I think this is just tradition now. Which number are we on? Is this 10 or 11? I can't count.
Nowhere to
This
put
might
this.
be 11.
I don't know where to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah. This is 11 because we were talking about the first 10 last time. I remember now.
Yeah.
We were talking about with Bunabun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is Ministry of Science number 11. Thank you, everybody, again for tuning in. This one is going to be, I think, a bit more overtly educational, and that will be, I think, a breath of fresh air. We've kind of been very, contemporary issue focused, but now we can actually do some learning alongside everybody in chat. So before we get into everything, we have a new panelist on the Ministry of Science. Please, everybody, give a nice, warm welcome to Amber, aka DNA Amber. Is that how you want to pronounce your
Amber's
Twitch name?
fine.
Okay, cool. So we'll refer to you as Amber from here on out. But let me go ahead and shout out your Twitch. Go ahead and give Amber a follow. If I could spell, there we go.
I usually play games with science sprinkled in there, but I'm a big gamer, so if you're into video game content.
Perfect.
And you have
Learning.
some awesome tattoos.
What?
You have some awesome tattoos.
Oh, thank you. This is all World of Warcraft.
Oh no!
Like I said.
Order or Alliance?
Well,
awesome.
I mean,
Oh,
that's
there
pretty.
we are. Okay, perfect.
It's okay. Nobody's perfect, you know.
Oh, I see the
It's
chair
all right.
now. Okay, never mind.
No, I'm just kidding. I play both. The horde symbol is way more recognizable, so that's the
For
one
real.
that I stick to.
Has a better aesthetic for tattoos.
Probably, yeah.
For the Horde.
Yeah.
God.
I'm just triggering Greg.
That was the most hello fellow kids.
Yeah, I haven't played World of Warcraft since it came out, so that's why it said like, or sounded like I was fucking, what's his face, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
15 years.
I stopped after Battle for Azeroth.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You didn't come back for the Shadowlands horde?
No, I read the I read the book that kind of was the prologue for Battle of Azeroth, and the game didn't match like where I thought the story was going to go, and I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Nice. All right. Cool.
I almost know as much about WoW lore as I does about, oh my god, as I do about genetics. I'm trying to speak. It's not working.
That's okay.
I know. I'm
getting all these follows. It's distracting me.
Especially if your alerts are going too. Like I can see how that would be very like distracting. I changed my follower alert to a clip of Hassan screaming about a Pokemon, and it makes me laugh, and I just can't focus on whatever I'm doing every time I get a follow. It's perfect. All right. So tonight on Ministry of Science, we should probably talk about the CRISPR situation. For anybody who's tuned into my stream, you will have probably heard some degree about this because I yell and moan and piss about Eric Lander, a very famous scientist. But we should probably at least get everybody sort of on the same page and oriented with what CRISPR is, and then the big ethical quandaries that come with it before we talk about the actual patent situation, because that is very recent news and that has some very big implications, both in terms of economy, in terms of money and patent rights over the the human body and biology, as well as who is going to be able to use these things in research. Right, it has implications for scientists being able to do science, at least in the realm of biology. So does anybody have any, I guess, like questions or thoughts before we kind of jump in? I don't know. I think Amber, you linked this video that we're about to watch on Sing 2. Does it actually go over like what CRISPR is in a decent way?
So like the first 5 minutes is a very easy to understand, but also in-depth explanation of CRISPR and like how it works and stuff like that, and what it was originally found in and stuff like that. And then it starts going into the dilemma with.
All right, I think we could probably go ahead and hit the play button. I think if maybe one of us hits play, it should play for everybody. So go ahead and get your sing tubes up and let us know when you're ready.
I always thought CRISPR was the drawer that you put broccoli in.
Yeah, we repurposed a refrigerator part to solve biology. That's how good we
Got
are.
it.
Hell
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's actually CRISPR-Cas9, but we just say CRISPR because it's easier.
Well, there's other
But-
Cases. There's other Cases.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
There are other Cases that you could put on CRISPR, but
Yeah, at some point we should also get into the world of anti-Cas because that is a thing. I was forced to do a project on that during my master's.
that's one of my favorite things, man. The viral. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
bunch
later.
of nerds in one place. What could go
Getting me all hot
wrong?
and bothered here. We're getting all excited.
Oh, all right, Greg. Before we break Twitch TOS, let's go ahead and start this video. All right, let's go ahead and see what happens. Hopefully, nothing breaks. And start.
Nice, it started for me. Sick. I am afraid of the TOS problems here, so I'm just gonna have to keep it copyrighted since it looks like they're not gonna pause it. So I'm just gonna keep the audio down and we can watch the captions. Oh man, they're really going basic here.
Like I said, very easy to digest, even if you have no understanding of genetics. It's a bit. I heard an interesting fact someone said about the twins that were CRISPR'd.
What was it?
In countries like France where they don't allow GMOs, they won't be allowed in technically because they're
my God.
technically GMOs.
That's so sick. That's so.
I know.
Seriously?
I mean, it's never been done, but like if you're going to follow the law that GMOs can't go, like that France doesn't allow GMOs or other European countries, then
Can you take a genetically modified like corn? Probably not. They probably screen
I
you
don't
at
think
the,
so.
that the yeah. So I guess your DNA is. I guess, man. I guess
they're
'cause you
shit
could
out of
breed. Well,
luck.
for real though, like they could breed and then propagate this.
Their whole family lineage won't be allowed in those countries that don't allow GMOs.
That's
'cause
crazy.
That's
I mean,
an
it's-
insane thought.
Yeah.
New,
Sorry.
do you
wanted
have a
to-
license for that just unlocked? Oh my god.
Dude, can you imagine
Yeah, your
ICE like
GMO
doing this at
license
the
on you?
border?
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Like,
That'd be
here,
nuts.
show me your genome, prove you're CRISPR free. We don't want any of them GMO immigrants. Like,
That's, I mean, hey, you say that, but that's not too far off from, what some intentions are.
I mean,
It's a long
there
way
are
off.
people that are able to, for whatever reason, not have that that integration happen at a lot lesser rate. A lot of people are found it's the HIV susceptibility.
The Delta 32
yeah,
deletion.
CCR5
They talk about
Delta
it
32.
in the video. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
let's,
They go into it, but that's they cover all of it.
yeah, let me go ahead and resume the video. Boop.
Just wanted that fun fact out there.
Let's see if they call it HDR or HR. HDR is the new cool thing
Yeah.
because you can have mini homologous repairs too, not just like the normal. Yeah, there it is. Oh, that's so cool.
I'm in future world.
Nah, dude, this is now. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it sucks that they're not going to be able to study these kids.
Nope.
That would be the cool thing to happen. I mean, that's frustrating.
And, you know, all he's done is just create this fear that did not need to be created, especially like at the moment, because it's not there yet. See, I heard that part, that the dad was HIV positive, but I didn't realize it was IVF, so it doesn't matter anyway. But I was like, oh, then it's kind of medically like relevant, but no, it's not.
Base.
He never even published his study, like his research, did he? Like the process?
Nope, not that I've seen.
Said he was going to, and then he just...
I mean, all the pressure that was put on him afterwards, it was insane. I mean, Chinese...
Well, he disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
For like 3 months. And even now, like, I don't think we've heard anything from him.
Wait, did they Jack Ma him?
Kind of.
We don't know.
He went to jail.
Did he? I thought... Oh, no, he was on house arrest.
I think he's been replaced by animal-human hybrid.
Oh, gosh.
Meta.
Don't start.
Animal.
I have a story about that, by the way, for after this. Yeah. Undergrad was fun. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison after his house arrest.
Jeez.
All right, sorry for the abrupt end there. He was going into a sponsor time, into
No, you're good.
hashtag ad break.
So,
All right.
So many.
on the...
So many.
Yeah.
Go. How about
Like,
your
what
questions
the fuck?
first, Professor Q? What are your questions, man?
So I thought we were quite a ways off from this, and so this catches me by a lot of surprise. Yeah, I think I'm just in awe. That's it.
Well-
That's my only question, comment.
I mean, it was all he did was delete, which is easy-ish with CRISPR, but additionally, we don't know if there were any fuck-ups. We don't know if there were any off-target effects, which usually happens a lot with CRISPR. So we don't.
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
let's maybe start from the beginning of the video and just kind of do like a quick TLDR, because that video was good, but it did move a little quick. So I want to make sure that chat is sort of at least relatively on the same page.
I don't want people freaking out about the world becoming Gattaca, by the way.
Yeah, so
It's
I think
okay.
I don't like their explanation of CRISPR. So basically, CRISPR is two parts. You have the guide RNA and you have the Cas9 or other Cas proteins. You can think about it as think about your genome as a document, okay, on Microsoft Word. And Control F for the find function is your guide RNA sequence. You can take that 20 base pair sequence and you can put it and you can find it anywhere on the page. The Cas9 or the whatever it is, in this case Cas9, since we're going to be making a deletion, would be basically right clicking and cutting that out. So the thing that the reason why CRISPR is important and why it's interesting isn't because we can do targeted gene editing with it. We've actually been able to do targeted gene editing for a while now. There's like zinc finger nucleases, there's talons. These are things that or restriction enzymes if you really want to go back farther. But the problem is that these are big proteins that you have to re-engineer, and it takes months, maybe even half a year for a zinc finger nuclease to actually change that targeted sequence. So the thing that CRISPR really improved on is the ease and ability to change that guide RNA sequence to only 20 base pairs, and that's super easy. To give you a time frame of how quickly this can happen, when I was working with CRISPR, 11 p.m. I put in a sequence into the company that's going to deliver my primers. That morning, on my desk is all the primers that I'm going to test that day. It's like 12 of them. And I can test all 12 at the same time, and by the end of the day, do a transformation with that CRISPR sequence that I had chosen and tested by 11 p.m. within 24 hours. So it's just like we're literally going from months and months and months to 24 hours. And now the huge thing that's happening with CRISPR and CRISPR development is basically Cas9 becomes this carrier of whatever we want. So instead of like that guide RNA sequence being really freaking useful, we can actually bring specific things or molecules or DNA sequences to specific parts of the genome that are really important to us. So we can sit that big Cas9 right on like a promoter sequence if we wanted to stop that protein from being made. And there's just a bunch of cool things that you can do now with molecular biology and really quickly because of CRISPR.
Yeah, so I mean, even like you could probably distill this even more for like a lay audience, since we do have a fair amount of non-scientist folk who, like, I understood everything you said, of course, but you know that might have been somewhat jargon heavy. But I really like your analogy with like Microsoft Word, right? You're basically doing
I was just about to say.
Control F to like find something that you want to edit in the genetic code, and then if you want to get rid of it, you highlight it and you cut it out. Or if you want to modify it, then you already have something on your clipboard to paste in. Like, you kind of have these abilities to selectively modify genetic code the way you want to. But like you also said, we were able to do that before CRISPR. However, we can do it much quicker, and we can do it in a way that gives us the most precise control over what we cut, how we cut it. And, you know, I don't want to get into the whole world of, you know, delivery and vectors and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
It's a very powerful tool. And I think that's kind of what Professor Q is saying, right? Like, we thought we were a very long time from a Gattaca type universe where we can just, you know, play around with people's genetic code and, you know, give them traits and, you know, the idea of designer children, right? That's what Doctor Who did in the video. That was the situation, right? He decided to break the rules that were at least agreed upon by scientists internationally, and actually went ahead and did this in a human embryo, right? He was trying.
Wait. His name's Doctor Who?
It's
HU.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
no relation to like the time traveler and the TARDIS or anything like that.
I want to emphasize, like, even though it's far more accurate than one we've had in the past, it's still not perfect, and you can't like go in without any mistakes and edit a specific gene. Like, there are still fuck ups. So
Yeah, and Amber, you're right. Like, despite how precise CRISPR actually is, we don't have complete control over it. Sometimes it could, in theory, go somewhere else in our genetic code where we don't want it to go and like remove something that it shouldn't remove, right? That's what Amber is saying about specificity or off-target effects, as scientists call it.
So if I understand this correctly, you might go in and edit a gene for blue eyes, let's say, right? And you end up like accidentally fucking up how tall someone's going to be, or, you know, something else. Maybe you give them like, you know, rabbit ears. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on the money. Like, you could try to change a gene for blue eyes and then accidentally like break a protein that's involved in being a tumor suppressor, and then now that person has cancer. Like, those are sort of the bigger implications, and you don't know what's going on, right? Because you're not watching it on a molecular level constantly. So that's, yeah, you're pretty much right. Shit will get fucked up if we're not careful about how we use it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, the doctor comes in and says, well, we gave your kid blue eyes, but they're going to have a life of cancer.
Well, and also, just for eye color alone, there's over 30 genes that contribute to it. So, like, that's another thing about the designer babies that people need to realize, is that there are so many genes that interact to give you height, to give you eye color, to give you skin color, to give you hair color. Like, there are thousands, millions of genes that contribute to all that stuff, and like
23,000.
Yeah.
And COVID targets all of them.
But for real though, we're talking about positive eugenics here, right? Where we're talking about how like we can improve someone's genome and make it better or something like that. I think it's a lot harder case to talk about negative eugenics and say that we don't have any place for gene editing. So like,
but that's what people like to talk about. That's why I emphasize so much that like, this is hard. Like, this isn't go in and pick what you want and it's gone, or it's this color or whatever. Like, I really like emphasizing that it's difficult and not 100% accurate, and there are so many targets that we don't even know where they are in the genome, that like, yeah.
So for those of us, namely myself, who this is probably the first time I've had any kind of actual discussion on what CRISPR is outside of like funny Alex Jones clips. What is the intent of CRISPR? Is it to try and like modify genes so that we kind of like you say, positive eugenics our way out of like tuberculosis or sickle cell anemia? Like what is like the positive intentions behind CRISPR?
It's like to do cool shit, man. I mean, that's really what it is. It's just,
don't say that.
You get to like, there's lots of cool things. There's lots of amazing things that we can do now that we can target, you know, a dozen genes at a time when we're trying to like, it just allows a lot of like plant and microbial abilities to change things around like never before, that we didn't have before. I mean, molecular biology is at the end of the day just a tool that we can use for whatever we want, right? We're just repurposing 2 billion years of evolution at this point, and we're just changing the target and saying like, let's see what happens.
But we're playing God, brother.
Yeah, hell yeah. Is there any
We've been
kind
playing
of,
God since we existed.
True. Is there any kind of future in cellular agriculture that involves CRISPR?
Oh hell yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's everything that biology touches, man, is going to be touched by CRISPR. I mean, it's
I can give an example. Like, I work in a cancer lab and we use mouse models, but those mice do not have the exact same receptors that humans do. So CRISPR could make that way easier, because we could fiddle, if we knew how to, we could fiddle with the receptors and like make it more like the human. I'm not saying that that's what we do, but I'm just saying like possibilities wise, like there are applications outside of just human genetic diseases and stuff. Like it would make research miles easier.
So there's basically, go ahead, man. Go ahead. I was going to say that there's a small amount of organisms that are like model species. Okay. Model species are things that we know how to work with really well. So like the entire field of microbiology is founded on like 24 species. Like, I'm not kidding. It's insane how small the amount of species are that we kind of like know the ins and outs with. So, and there's 99% of the microbial world that we've never worked with. So if we wanted to go into a new organism for the first time, you have to, and we want to make our genetic and our molecular tools within that organism. You got to know a lot of stuff, man. You got to know like how and why you're going to make this protein and turn this on. And there could be defense mechanisms that would take that out and all that kind of stuff. The cool thing about CRISPR is now, man, like we have that tool, and we can go to like pretty much anything that has DNA and say, hey, this is what the sequence that we want to look for. This is the one that we want to insert. And then now it allows us to kind of work with it. It's called like in situ. So as they are, where they are. So a lot of times in molecular biology and stuff, we're removing DNA and then we're changing it and then putting it back in. But having a tool that we can actually just go to an organism and be like, hey, we're going to change your genes where you are. We don't have to take you out of the community and then put you back in. It's incredibly, incredibly powerful.
Yeah, so Grandma, right? If you're referring to cellular agriculture, that sounds like basically lab-grown meat. Is that what you were thinking of?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is, it's a tool that absolutely could be applied to that kind of practice. If there was a particular strategy and these muscle cells you're growing in a laboratory that you're trying to grow into basically just an aggregate of protein to make a fake science patty to replace a hamburger or something. Yeah, if there's something you could play around with in the genetic code of these muscle cells to like make them grow faster or to make them grow larger so your patties are more protein rich or you get more of them faster, right? You could absolutely use CRISPR as a tool to go into their genetic code and fuck around until you find out, basically.
Perfect.
There's some really cool stuff happening, especially with agriculture, like in plants. So we're figuring out just how much microbes and their microbiome. It's a collection, a community of microbes is called the microbiome. So we were finding out that, like, for example, humans are only 50% human cells. If you just take out all the cells in your body and you count all of them, you're only 50% human. So
this is soft science guys on the panel just went, oh.
Yeah, isn't that nuts? Isn't that so cool? And now we're finding
that's not cool, man.
that those microbiomes, so that microbiome in your gut actually ties directly into your brain. So it's the gut-brain connection. It plays a key role in your immune response and all that kind of stuff. So the actual application for like something like CRISPR is going to be more readily is going to be like, wow, we can sequence your specific cancer and know to the nucleotide exactly what cancer problem that you have. So now we can actually design a CRISPR that's going to attach to your specific cancer problem, like your exact same sequence. And now we can go in and try to change that and do that really easily and really, really cheaply. And now you have gene therapy tools that you never had before and you couldn't have before because everyone couldn't have this, different molecular tools, but now they can.
Goddamn scientists.
You guys are wild.
Isn't it so cool? This is now. Like, this isn't like in the future sometimes. Like, this is now, guys. Science fiction is happening now.
Groundbreaking discovery happening right now. It's insane.
For real.
Yeah, and there's even more applications like beyond human health, right? Plant biologists in particular, right? If you think about something like GMO rice or like golden rice,
a GMO
staple. I think it's rice that was modified to include a bunch more vitamin A to help poor folk in like Asian countries, I think, actually like not go blind because they were vitamin A deficient. So if you want to talk about plants,
GMOs.
Yeah, you could literally just make, crops that are more weather resistant by like modifying their genetic code using CRISPR as a tool to help them better adapt to their environment and stuff like that. So it's equally as possible that the big baddie of old called Monsanto could take something like this and create their own plant.
Whoa.
And that's where capitalism ties into this.
Can we slow it down just a bit? Wow.
Yeah, I will say when we were watching the video, I think my brain may be rotted because when I was looking at what I'm assuming we're referring to as the CRISPR, like attached itself onto the DNA strand, I was immediately like, this is just an Elden Ring boss.
Dude, so this is the coolest thing. I was just at a virtual conference with Doudna and saw her present for the first time. She uses PowerPoint just like everyone else, just letting you know. It's really nuts. And her slides, by the way, were awful. So... And that was like actually,
why doesn't that surprise me?
They were really bad.
She doesn't seem like the kind of. Anyway.
Yeah, when you win a Nobel Prize, you kind of just forget about
Stop
everything.
Giving a fuck.
Yeah. So
This
the
makes
coolest
it, like,
thing is
a strange question.
Go ahead.
Just because I'm not like a biology person, but that thing that attaches to the DNA strand, the CRISPR, does that have like a decay rate? Is there like a period of time where it's attached to the DNA, or is that just there now?
it climbs, clumps. It'll do three things in sequential order. Guide RNA is gonna go across, scan, bind to whatever it can. Once it's bound, if it has a PAM site in front of it, then the third action is the cut. So three things happens in that order. The coolest thing, in that we still don't know, and that they're still researching right now, is how the hell the guide RNA can scan so much of the genome. And how quickly it happens, we have no idea. It's absolutely insane how efficient and quickly it's done. We have no idea how the guide RNA goes through all that. Like they were showing the unraveled Cas9. Like, dude, it doesn't look like that. Like the double-stranded DNA doesn't uncoil all of a sudden all the time. It's usually coiled, super coiled. There's a lot of different ways that the DNA stays in its structures around helicases.
Around histones.
Exactly.
And,
histones. That's the word. Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and to even make it more mind-blowing, Grumlow, at least the version that I use in my work, what Greg said, right, it scans and then it cuts. I use the version that doesn't cut, so it just scans, it binds, and then it stops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can't sit there. Yeah, you're right.
You can actually modify it to do all sorts of different things.
Does the whole enzyme stay there, or is it just the guide RNA?
Yeah, the whole thing.
You cannot get the guide RNA and Cas to disassociate. It's so
you
strong.
can't. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're stuck.
I see.
I'm starting to understand the Salem witch trials. Y'all are doing like witchcraft.
Dude, it's nuts.
This is what
I founded my YouTube channel because of this. I'm telling you, man, the shit that goes on in science right now is science fiction to the layperson. We don't have to even talk about like future humans and transhumanism and all that kind of shit. We can just talk about current science right now, and it would just blow your mind all night. That's so cool. It's so cool. But the gap between the layperson, I mean, no offense to anyone that doesn't do science, obviously, but like I'm saying, like layperson to scientist is growing larger and larger, and it's a really bad thing.
Yeah, when people find out about this, like they're gonna grab pitchforks.
I mean, this is old news. CRISPR was discovered and like attributed to eukaryotes in like 2014,
yep.
And yeah, that's when the patent debacle like started, and now it's revving up. But like, yeah, this isn't even like breaking news, CRISPR invented kind of thing. This is like been out
we're talking
there.
about like a newspaper headline from years ago.
It was discovered in 2012, but it was used on eukaryotic cells in 2014.
So the timeline of how advanced it has become just in a decade is that rapid?
Oh yeah, dude. It's nuts. I was working with yeast at the time, and I was doing genetic engineering of the yeast, and so I was watching this stuff unfold, and yeah, I saw in 2013 like CRISPR was known about since like I would say like 2007, 2008 that bacteria has like an immune system that's adaptive. And we didn't know how it worked and how it all fit together. But then this is what Doudna and her colleague in France like also discovered, is that you can actually change the guide RNA sequence really easily. And then January 2013 is when Zhang's paper from the Church Lab comes out, and they're like, and everyone kind of knew at that point, because as soon as you can kind of change the guide RNA sequence, everyone kind of knew that you could use this in everything, but
it was inevitable.
Yeah, so everyone kind of knew that, but then the Zhang paper came out, and it was like, oh yeah, we can actually use multiple guide RNA sequences, so we can target multiple parts in the genome at the same time. And oh, by the way, guys, here's a plasmid that you can just buy for $20 off of Adgene, and you just go and just buy that, and it's like they absolutely blew it open. So they didn't like. That's why Doudna and her colleague got the Nobel Prize. They didn't really. They're the ones that had been working on it since like 2007, 2008. But it was really like Zhang and the Church Lab and all those people that kind of made it super, super simple, super easy on one plasmid. It's not that expensive. It's so cool, man.
So wild. I've never heard of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a fun story about this that I was reminded of when someone said, I think it was Professor Q said animal-human hybrid. In my undergrad cell biology class, we had an ethics discussion day, which I was just so ecstatic about. And one of the like discussions up for grabs was CRISPR, and I'm like, fuck yeah, like that's got me written all over it. So I went into the Zoom room because this was the peak of COVID. And one of the girls in that group was like, I just don't want animal human hybrids running around and like taking over the country. And I'm like, I don't have enough time to explain why that's kind of irrational, but okay.
I mean, it sounds kind of pog if you ask me.
Full Metal Alchemist, the full like the scientists going crazy.
Stop giving them fuel.
Yeah, and like, don't share this with Rand Paul. Do not tell Alex Jones about this shit.
It's so cool, man. I'm telling you. And dude, the craziest fucking thing about CRISPR is that we just discovered this. Like, it's nuts. So there's basically genetic surveys happening of like how many bacteria actually have the defense mechanism. Dude, like 30 or 40% of microbes have some type of CRISPR-Cas system for defense. It's nuts. Like viruses have evolved to hijack the bacteria's because right, the bacteriophage bacteria, they're kind of like naturally at war, evolutionary war with one another. They can figure out, they have their own Cas systems that viruses actually inject into bacteria to they also have ways of hijacking the host's immune CRISPR system, so it'll actually target its own CRISPR system, make basically they'll go in and make the bacteria shoot themselves kind of thing. It's nuts, dude. It is so freaking cool.
Like
all right, I'll see y'all later. I'm gonna hide in my bed.
How do we just figure this out? It's crazy to me. There's so much cool shit out there that we have no idea about, that we are just learning about. I mean, it's so mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, let's
teach a course on this, like, you know, recent advances in the fucking science, and like people would anyway.
Dude, watch my stream. This is what I'm talking about. This is all I'm talking about.
You could literally create an entire course just on CRISPR, because like Greg was saying, there's just so much to unpack just for this one particular discovery. Because what we're just starting to do is figure out, you know, evolutionarily speaking, what these microbes were up to for millions and millions and millions of years, and repurposing it for our own use. Like, that's kind of why people joke, you know, scientists are playing God, because we are, you know, unpacking what people view to be God's creations and taking their very essence and using them to do what we actually need to do, whether that's just, you know, setting up research projects in a laboratory, make plants more resistant to something, cure human disease. Like, that's why this particular scientific discovery has so much potential. And like you're saying, Professor Q, this seems to be still like outside of scientific circles, under the radar, right? Like, this isn't the, you know, groundbreaking thing that scientists really know it to be, right? Because for folks like Amber, Greg, and myself, like we use these things all the time. Like, these are just commonplace tools to us now. But for everybody else, this is just oh yeah, this is a thing, I guess. Like, maybe I'll get some, I don't know, Cinnamon Toast Crunch that got CRISPR'd or something. Like, people
engineered product.
Concept of it.
It's an engineered product now. We went through the design lab, the markets, and not GMOs anymore. They're called.
I wish. Get rid of those stupid fucking labels.
This is the one time I wish I had actual alcohol with me on the stream, because like this is just a lot. Oh my god,
it's so cool, man. It is so fun. It's a cool
I
space.
understand why universities aren't having like all kinds of public talks about this to like
they do. I mean, a lot of times they've basically changed ethics in a lot of biology conferences from like the last thing at the last day that nobody wants to go to like between talks now. People like ethics and bioethics is a huge thing that people are talking about. But personally, I'm a little bit more like, I should have the decision. If I have a rare cancer, you know, I CRISPR me up, dude. Like, I want to CRISPR me. But I can understand people. I'd be down. I'd be down to CRISPR myself. I should. I mean, I'm not
go down this wormhole.
I'm not saying. I'm not saying that other people. I'm not saying that other people should. I'm saying that I want the chance to do it to myself.
It's not about the ethics. Cancer is just really hard to do gene therapy on, because the tumors are mosaic and have like a bajillion different mutations. So if you do CRISPR for one mutation, you'll still have however many cells left in that tumor with not that mutation, but 10 others that you have to specifically target. And that's why gene therapy for cancer hasn't been like as successful as people thought it was going to be. Because you could take 1 million cells out of a tumor and they'll all have different genomes.
Yeah, I think this actually might be a decent opportunity to talk about the biohackers, who I think are fucking idiots, actually.
I was just going to ask about that, actually.
I wanted to talk to you about this at some point.
Dude, I mean, I just mentioned this on my stream last week. Like, there is going to be GFP tattoos very soon.
I'm waiting.
I'm not kidding. Wait. So you would get a GFP tattoo, but you wouldn't get gene therapy for your deadly cancer?
I will. Okay, listen. I would get gene therapy for my cancer if it was effective. If tumors were not mosaic and didn't have 100,000 mutations in one tumor, then yes, I would get gene therapy. I have no problem with gene therapy. I'm all for gene therapy.
Okay.
Just specifically for cancer, it isn't effective.
Okay, so I understand that point. I understand. So on another thing with like a couple of mutations or something that
absolutely. CRISPR me up. Fuck it.
Me too.
But
me
no,
too. I totally agree.
It's just its efficacy with cancer.
Okay.
I'm assuming would be the same as other gene therapies, which haven't been great. So.
Yeah, I mean, with cancer, it's sort of the same principle with any treatment, right? Like you're just killing off the stuff that you can kill, and then you leave the stuff that's resistant to whatever you use behind.
Exactly. It's like taking antibiotics for 3 days and expecting your infection to be gone, but you still have those leftovers.
But I mean, there's so many ways that you can check and make sure, though. You can deliver CRISPR through lipid nanoparticles.
How are you going to individually target every single mutation in a cancer tumor that has 1,000 different mutations in it? Like, how are you going to, know what the mutations are and then target them without picking every single cell out of the tumor? Like, then it's just going to be gone at that point. But
I mean, there are really cool in situ sequencing capabilities now, like CRISPR Mage. Basically, it's an evolution of fish fluorescence in situ hybridization. So basically, that when a DNA can bind to another DNA, it shoots out a green signal or whatever. So that's what fish is. Now, CR Mage is from the Church Lab, and they basically use CRISPR now. So whenever the CRISPR binds to a specific sequence, the Cas9 has a molecule at the end that will actually shoot off, a flare that you can actually see, and you can do in situ. So as they are where they are, sequencing of a specific thing. And they've done RNA and DNA now. So cool.
I think you're underestimating the amount of mutations in a tumor.
Well, and not only that too, like if you're talking about a solid tumor, you're not getting into the core of it. Like you're literally just getting into the outside. And then if you're talking about a liquid tumor, like, leukemia, then good luck, because that's just floating around.
Yeah. I mean, people say cancer, but it's like hundreds of different diseases, right? So it's not really.
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not really fair to talk about, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So
there's limitations. There's limitations.
That's my job. Obviously. So I'm like,
no, thank you. No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just saying that there are limitations. I agree.
So could we use this as a, let's say, cure for COVID, preventative measure for future babies?
Oh, they did do that. It's so cool.
What?
It's so cool.
What?
Yeah.
What receptor does COVID use? No, it doesn't use a receptor, right?
No,
it's ACE2. You can't CRISPR out ACE2 because that's it's required for blood pressure regulation. So you're fucked if you get rid of it.
You use CRISPR to target the genome.
Yeah, but it's an enveloped virus. How are you gonna get into?
Well, no. So I mean, Greg, if you're saying you knock out a viral entry receptor, like that's so important for human physiology, you would be dead without it.
I forget, maybe they're in regards to the
I'm
T-cell
interested, so
or
I'd
something
love to
like
see
that.
it.
Yeah, we can talk about it on Discord. Like if you come across an article or like a paper you like browsed at one point, we can.
Okay, it's not good for cancer. Maybe not such a good thing for COVID right now. So what kinds of things are people talking about using this for?
Genetic diseases.
Yeah, genetic disease is the big one, where like you inherit like either one copy of like a dominant gene that like gives you some crippling genetic illness, or if you inherit 2 copies of a gene that give you some sort of illness. You can go around and into people's body depending on what the disease is and fuck with it. So either like you get rid of one copy of a bad gene and then disease cured, or you try and.
You can't really go into like a full-grown body because we haven't been able to effectively do that, it would have to be like the embryonic stage.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like a permanent cure, then yeah, we would have to go into like germline, right? We would have to modify sperm and egg to really like obliterate an entire genetic disease from carriers. If we're talking about somebody who actually like has been born with a genetic disease, depending on what it is, you might be able to sort of CRISPR it. Like I know there have been some genetic diseases where people are basically born without an immune system, and it's because of a certain gene like mutated and it broke, and therefore these people just have no immune system. So you can go in, take stem cells out of their bone marrow, CRISPR them in a laboratory to fix the broken gene, then put them back in that person's bone marrow, and then surprise, look, now they have an immune system, disease cured. Like it really is just very context dependent, but at least in the human disease world, genetic diseases seem to be the first major focus.
And a cool way to actually deliver CRISPR too. So there's a lot of different ways, obviously DNA to RNA to protein, and you can basically deliver CRISPR at each of those stages, right? So the cool thing is that you can actually deliver CRISPR in the RNA form, just like our COVID vaccines that are enwrapped in a lipid nanoparticle. And basically over time, some of those RNAs get out of the CRISPR that have the guide RNA and stuff like that. And there was a paper, it was by a company, and this is a technology that they developed that they can basically, like, it's called interference or stopping a protein from being made. They did that through CRISPR, through this delivery system for 9 months. So they did a single injection into a mouse model and showed that it stopped the expression of a gene for 9 months. So it's not just like, one and done, one CRISPR is made and then it goes away, which it does degrade over time. So you have to keep introducing it if you want to do stuff like that.
All right, this might be a good time to sort of segue and like piggyback off of what Professor Q said and talk about other things that people are attempting to use CRISPR for. I added a video into the playlist about the old biohackers, or at least I think it talks about at least one of them. So I'll give you all a second to like pull up your sync tubes again.
This is new to me. I've heard the word biohacker thrown around, but I've never actually looked into what it was. So
that's how I found out about this stuff.
Yeah.
The only time I've heard of it was on Joe Rogan Questions Everything.
And the context there is less than ideal, because if Joe Rogan's talking about doing this, then, some fucking idiot somewhere is doing something they shouldn't.
Uh-huh.
Ew. That couldn't have made it less appealing.
Right.
All right, so let me know when y'all are ready.
Let's go.
Alrighty, 3, 2, 1, play.
Weird shot.
Very. And this dude's also very weird.
Oh, this is the movie I saw. Yeah.
Setting up the eerie feeling, I guess. That doesn't look
That's
sterile.
Safe. Don't worry. Yeah, he just used that to do drugs off of last night.
That's what my lab looks like.
This is not a meth lab.
Oh. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, just wait.
I'm already so not Oh no. Wasn't this guy in the Netflix series Unnatural Selection?
I think
Did you watch
so.
that? I think he is because he looks super familiar. I feel like they talked about people genetically modifying things in their home, and he
Yeah, it's
came
the
up.
hair. I think that makes him stand out.
He didn't seem this stupid in the Netflix documentary, so they did him some favors.
If he's trying to replace his like flora,
Yeah, he's gonna get some constipation or diarrhea, or it's not gonna be good.
or yeah, like swabbing your arms for your gut bacteria, like those don't belong in
Maybe
your
his
gut.
entire microbiome.
Oh, he wants to do everything.
Fecal.
Oh,
You got to do a
Jesus.
fecal transplant. That's the only way.
Oh, that's just the gut. He wants the skin as well.
Yeah, Unnatural Selection is a series on Netflix about genetic modification. It's
God damn it.
It's all right.
Poop stream.
Oh. Does this mean he has Crohn's disease? Dude, shitty pipettes, man. Jesus.
Hey, when you're in a garage lab, you take what you can get.
I guess so. 20-year-old Gilson's like, fuck that.
I mean, that much is true.
God, I'm gonna have problems sleeping tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Images of people pooping and bugs all over me and God.
Who's going to sleep though? Is it you or is it your 50% of your microbes?
Stop that. I knew where you're going. Oh, that's so safe. That's so
How are you sure that you're
this
just getting the
TOS friendly?
bacteria in the sample?
Is that TOS ready? He's like, ground stuff up, getting the needle ready.
I'm not sure.
We do not endorse the content in this video. This is for analysis purposes only.
Is he gonna?
Oh, he's trying to put it into a capsule.
Is he gonna poof it?
Yeah, there's a hole in it because you like injected it, dude.
Science.
You can tell he's not the brightest bulb here.
How do you know the bacteria you get are from the sample and not from the fucking environmental disaster all around him?
I mean,
Also a fair point.
you know, some cell.
This is why we use
salmonella with
hoods.
the CRISPR.
I know, right? Yeah, I didn't see any type of sterile technique.
I'm gonna lose it, dude. I'm gonna lose it. One pair of gloves and that's it.
When he was taking samples from his friend too, it was literally like no buffer in those conicals to like keep the bacteria alive and suspended. It was literally just empty conicals. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Uses honey, no. Honey,
Okay,
no.
so he does a transformation.
No, so he's literally just
Oh my
purging his
God.
gut
He's trying
with
to purge.
antibiotics.
Oh, I thought he did a transformation and he was selecting for his transform.
Feel the immediate backlash. You don't say. You don't say. Ah. Thank you for this frustration. Oh, there we go. Some PPE. Wow,
Oh my God,
good
he
job.
rented a hotel for his lab?
Yeah, why is he in a hotel?
Oh, that's why
'Cause
he's
he's-
showering.
Oh, this is him trying
He's
to purge his
scrubbing all the
skin
bacteria. Oh my god.
What the fuck? Is this guy ever been to a hotel party? Is he ever, not usually?
Oh, I hope that was DI water
Saline,
and
right?
not just from
You don't saline, right?
not just from the sink. Well, yeah, but just not like from the sink. Oh god.
Yeah, dude, that hotel room is not clean. Is this guy ever gone?
PSA: don't use tap water for your irrigation stuff because there's fucking amoebas. Yeah.
Where did he get the stuff from again? Where did he
What?
get?
Right in a back alley.
He
Depending
cultured
on
his
what you're
arms,
talking
right?
about, you can order this stuff from research retailers. They won't necessarily check.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, this is so
Like
frustrating.
plasmids, you have to have an MTA, like a material transfers agreement, signed and like verify you're part of academia. But for like powdered antibiotics and shit, for him to purge his gut flora, he could probably just buy that, no problem.
Dude, you can get plasmids off of Adgene. Anyone can. You don't have to have an MTA for academic.
At least that used to be Adgene's policy. Maybe it changed since last I checked.
Really? I mean, that was, yeah. We used to I just paid more basically when I was in my biotech trying to just. Get
Oh, look at him sulk at all the people shitting on him.
All I can think this entire time is somebody's making some bomb psilocybin mushrooms in there.
Use your power for good.
Yeah. You're the chosen one.
I still don't understand the hotel. I don't.
I liked the like chud sad compilation of him listening to the podcast, just saying how just unscientific he is, and here we are doing the same thing.
The kid have a M16. What?
Yeah, brother, that's freedom. M16
Dude.
on the farm and making your own poop transplant.
Dude,
Merca.
libertarians and their consequences.
Literally, dude.
Every single I mean, this is the same thing with the CRISPR baby dude. The guy actually met with CRISPR researchers in the United States.
Yeah, so I mean that's a whole like separate wormhole.
It's crazy.
Because the dude had help to like violate international scientific agreements.
He pretty
I'm glad
much
they have
did.
the,
He pretty much did.
airsoft glasses for their protection.
You can't even streak that to single, dude. That looks awful. It looks.
Only zone 1. We don't need 2 or 3 when we're biohacking.
He pretty much did make himself immunocompromised because
Yeah.
your skin bacteria, gut bacteria, like they fight off pathogens just as much as your immune system, if not more.
On your first stage,
I mean,
that's
at
the
least
entire first
functionally, like
Yeah.
during the process. Eventually,
You
it
know
probably
this guy's on the
repopulated.
carnivore diet.
Oh God,
God,
the
it's insane.
paleo.
This guy definitely.
Yeah,
does
yeah. He probably browses Michaela Peterson's
This is
Twitter
on the
for diet
Lions
advice.
Club.
Two samples, buddy.
Gonna cry.
Over 2 samples.
He is. Yes.
That's not even.
Wait, so he
pig.
sequenced his own poop now versus the original sample, and
Mhm.
okay. Oh my God.
Versus his friend's donated sample. And was like, wow, those are genetically different.
Dude, how did he make the NGS library prep? Where was it just? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, how did that even?
He probably just sent a sample to some like university lab that did it for him.
Sanger though? There's no way he's doing. That dude's hitting up a high seek after doing pipettes from a garage. Like, no way.
No, I mean he probably like sent it to a lab because you could probably buy the kits to like isolate DNA from poop, and then once you get a prep of just like isolated DNA, then you just dilute it with a primer and send it off to a lab.
Yeah, you can just do a gDNA prep. Like they're pretty.
No, I understand, but he was doing like a phylogenetic tree. I saw there, or is he?
There's programs.
Oh yeah, there's definitely programs you can do that shit in like benchling.
I agree, but I'm just wondering, like, how the hell? I don't know. It just didn't look like it was robust or anything for him to tell, like, to conclude anything off of that. It must have been a single amplicon and a single like sequencing done where it's like it's not going to tell you much. He's not doing next generation sequencing on. Yeah, he's not. Yeah, I mean that was so funny. Wow. I do give it props to scientists that are willing to test themselves first. I'll give them that, man. If a scientist isn't willing to do it to themselves, I wouldn't trust that scientist. I'll be honest.
Well, and keep in mind too, like that wasn't the only thing he tried to biohack. Like I'm sure I could probably go find another video where he tried to cure his own lactose intolerance by trying to deliver the lactase enzyme into the lining of either his stomach or his small intestine using a virus, which like literally could have given him cancer. It didn't work, by the way.
I saw that.
I think this goes to show that you can't genetically modify out stupid.
Yes, stupid is a polygenic trait.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry. That was a little inside baseball, Grandma.
No, I got it.
You nerds.
My brain's like, well, environmental.
Oh, I mean, certainly
genetics.
when you're raised in an environment where you're playing around with an M16 in a red wagon flyer as a kid doesn't help. Brother.
Freedom, brother.
Dude.
There are cool things though, microbiome wise, that do like that we are finding out that's like for example, like I saw it was a broad study of sequencing done for Olympians, and they have like completely different microbiomes than like the general population of their host countries. It's like there are like things like that where you're like, whoa, that is kind of strange.
Yeah, I mean, like actual science notwithstanding, what he's doing is fucking insane. But
yeah.
If we're bringing this back around to what Professor Q was talking about with CRISPR, right? Like, what are the things you can do with it? Well, apparently, these things are so easy to just acquire, right? For anybody with just enough knowledge to be dangerous, likely to themselves, can set up a storage unit lab like he did and try and biohack themselves, right? And because of things like Amber said, right, about off-target effects, you might break something that you didn't want to break, and now your biology's fucked because you didn't have the patience to wait for the institution to figure it out, and you just went off half-cocked and did it yourself.
Yeah.
How is there not some kind of like government organization that's cracking down on these like essentially meth labs? Like how is this not a thing?
I mean,
it should be, in my opinion.
There kind of is. I mean, the way to get these these primers and these materials and stuff, like they scan when you put in your thing to make sure that it's not like a bioterrorist weapon or something like that. I mean, that is the real harm that could come from this, is creating basically a bioterrorist weapon.
Yeah, I mean, like what the conspiracy theorists think, like, oh yeah, brother, COVID was made in a lab, like. In theory, some of the controls around these materials acquisitions are loose enough to where somebody who knew what they were doing theoretically could do that. Like in Minecraft, in an alternate dimension, not in real life, that would be bad. But like, I agree with you, Grumlow, in the sense that there needs to be a lot tighter control of this. Like, if I remember, like I was telling Greg, like one vendor of reagents called Adgene, I think at least they used to, I don't know if they still do, but they verified you were part of like an academic institution in like a research lab before they actually like sent you the shit that you bought. But that needs to be the case for a lot of this other shit. Like it's almost analogous to like how if you're trying to buy a bunch of fertilizer, like suddenly you're put on a list. Like something should flag you if you're trying to like magically buy all of the prerequisite components and you're not part of a laboratory somewhere. Like if you're not a company or a government lab or a university lab, like you should be put on a list. I'm sorry.
I'm willing to bet there's a Fed in like 8 out of 10 of these things. Like one dude is just a Fed, just waiting to and watching the other, sweaty libertarians, mix up their dookie.
Oh, dude, that's a 5-head psyop right there.
Yeah.
Josiah Zayner is a psyop. Oh god, I feel like a QAnoner at that point after just saying shit like that.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild.
So, all right. Can Monsanto come in to this newly discovered realm and start, putting patents and trademarks on parts of the human genome?
That's a great question, dude.
So, I mean, I think at least as far as the human genome itself is concerned, not really. But I think the greater issue is like the tool, like the CRISPR tool itself. That's actually like the subject of a massive patent battle. Like we could probably actually watch the third video on the playlist to put that groundwork down. But I think, and maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of legal precedent and international agreement that you can't like patent genes in the human genome. I think that's a thing.
I think humans are off limits, but they've already done it with like corn and stuff. But I think humans are where the line in the sand is, just because like we're autonomous people, and
yeah, it's wild. It's like wild type, like normal human genomes. So that would be like my genome as it is. But if I like evolve through positive eugenics or something, some crazy thing that's able to, turn on your vitamin C, that because we all have vitamin C, the gene for vitamin C, all in our bodies. It's called
it's
the
one of the
pseudogene.
unlucky mammals.
Yep, exactly. Your dog can make your own vitamin C, but why can't you? Well, because we evolved to stop making that. Because we didn't need to. We were eating so much citrus, it turned off. It basically accumulated mutations in the front of the gene that turned it off. And we could turn it back on again.
Losey would love this conversation.
I know, right?
Who would?
Evo.
Oh, yeah, Evo would probably go ham. He's probably dissertation writing right now. Go on.
So it's like there's some cool things, but if you were trying to like turn that back on or something like that, I think that you would have basically... There are some ways that you can access those parts of the genes that people have patented. So like different technologies to do that.
Yeah. So let's talk about the CRISPR patent case. I'm going to go ahead and get the final video queued up in SyncTube. And then let me know when y'all are ready. This one's a shorter one. It's only like 3.5 minutes, barely.
And text-to-speech narrated, it sounded like.
Oh God! Oh Jesus! I think it's just a summary of a Verge article. So yeah, it might be Microsoft Anna. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and send it.
TTS Brian on this.
Dude, I want TTS Brian to get on this.
Love
the Microsoft voices are not great. TTS Brian is so much better.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play it. Hopefully, it's not too cringe. Oh, there we go. Yeah, what the fuck?
Just reading a news article.
All right, fuck it, I'll let it run.
That's it.
Sauce.
CRISPR. It's like the campfire song from SpongeBob. CRISPR. SONG song.
Oh, that's so scoffed.
Your destination is as a third ventricle.
Oh.
God damn it, dude.
This is like the TikTok voice for the CDC.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
At least just type out CRISPR like with an ER so that the text to speech will like try to read it as a word.
Yeah.
UC Berkeley started the appeal and lost that. Oh, they did it to themselves.
Harvard's got to be paying the judges or something.
Honestly. And MIT.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just reading a CEO statement. I think we can probably cut it there.
Okay.
Yeah, so TLDR, the two female scientists who discovered this back in 2011, I think, Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier, they went to file patents for it, but at the same time, there were groups, or a group at the Broad Institute, which is basically sort of this offshoot of Harvard and MIT, that made the CRISPR Cas9 system like actually usable as a research tool. So they essentially, this is nerd lingo, but they did all the cloning and put it in plasmids so scientists could actually like use it for their work. Right. So we have sort of two opposing factions here. We have one that actually did like the mechanistic discovery. They did all the experiments off of an exploratory grant from the National Science Foundation. They figured out how it worked. They figured out it had all this potential. And then the other group basically took that and was like, okay, cool. Here's the tool-ified version of all of this so we can play around with it. And those are the two like separate sets of patents that sort of started this entire patent war back and forth. Now, I will also interject and say Eric Lander, who used to be the head of the Broad Institute, also used to be the head of Biden's Office of Science and Technology Policy, rest in piss because he bullied everybody and got fired. That guy basically did the science version of like manufacturing consent Chomsky style. And when these patent issues were brewing in 2014, he basically wrote an article in a big scientific outlet called Stat News, which I think he had a hand in founding, interestingly enough, basically downplaying the role of the two female scientists in discovering it in the first place and trying to make a case for his institute owning the patents because they did more of the work. So that's the very like quick and dirty situation around the discovery and the patent debacle. That's apparently ended as of 2 days ago because the Patent and Trademark Office just decided it's all in Broad's hands now. So,
well, they had, I mean, the initial patent decision was like the Berkeley or the UC gets plasmid-based CRISPR, and then basically Broad gets everything else, or Broad, I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, it's like basically all the other things, and that's basically how everyone's doing it anyway. So they kind of like didn't lose that much because everything is delivered now with CRISPR. That's what you hear. You don't even see CRISPR. The new CRISPR's papers, you don't even see CRISPR anymore. That's how cool and old it is. It's ribonucleic protein, because that's what the guide RNA versus protein is, and that's what the papers call it. And they deliver it as a protein, as an intact protein, and just put it right in. So then they don't have to worry about making the CRISPR within the cell. So that's kind of how it already is. So it's not that big of a deal. I don't know.
Well, so remind me, like who owns that one?
All the plasmid based stuff was the UC, because that's what Doudna did like they were the first ones to show that you could change the guide RNA sequence and that you can actually like target things. And then Zhang took it and basically did multiple guides at the same time, and then also human cells in vitro, human tissue culture, and multiple. I think they did a zebrafish. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was a zebrafish.
Yeah, my memory was the other way around. I thought it was like, because if you go on AdGene, right, like you can see it. All the CRISPR plasmids originally came from Feng Zhang's lab. No. Yeah,
well, that's my point. Is that they posted it, so the Doudna didn't make it easily accessible. They didn't release it to AdGene, and then like Zhang, they did that. They did make it easily accessible. They didn't patent. They could have. I mean, let's be honest. They could have played it a lot differently, right? They could have said, "Hey, we got this thing. We're not giving it to fucking anyone," but they didn't. There's actually this picture that's really freaking cool. I've tried to find it a couple times. I can't find it, but they basically had the conference room, and on it they just had a entire conference room with the MTA requests, and it was like a 4-foot high mound of envelopes and white papers, just all the people asking for the MTA request for the thing. It was nuts.
Jesus.
And they did it, man. They gave them all out, and hundreds and hundreds of biotech businesses have been made and created based off of that. Thousands of research papers are now because of what they did. It was very selfless of them. Let's be real.
All right, so can I ask a question? And I don't want to. If you can tell me no, we're not going to talk about that right now. How does the whole transhumanism thing fit into this? Because I've seen it in the QAnon circle, but I haven't really probed like what the fuck that is.
I didn't understand that either. Why it's connected, but
so I mean.
Future scary things.
I mean, that's basically the TLDR. Like, you could kind of think of it sort of in a Gattaca-esque vein, but less about like authoritarian surveillance of people's genetic code and whether they're like good enough to participate in society or get killed, and more like the designer baby part of it. So like creating, super athletes or like incredibly smart people by CRISPRing the fuck out of their genetic code or something like that.
They have the money to do whatever ends up. If it ever ends up.
Yeah, well, that's like a very underemphasized aspect of all of it. Like, you absolutely have to have the material wealth to even do this kind of thing in the first place, like especially in its inception, because obviously this is like a revolutionary technology. Like, it's not widely available to everybody. Like, you can't just, go sit down with a medical geneticist and like fill out your 23andMe before the kid's even fucking born to like handpick its genes, like that's I think where the transhumanism part of it comes in. Read and Rap is also mentioning in chat there's a possibility of us somehow using this to like accelerate the singularity, like merge our consciousness with AI. I'm not entirely sure about that either. That would seem very much more in like the conspiratorial territory, and that almost seems like that would be why you hear about it in the QAnon circles.
It seems that like the logical conclusion would be more like an Elysium type situation where there's the lower rungs of the society are not able to access.
What I always say when people bring that up, though, about like gene editing only being available to the higher echelons of society, is then that's a problem with society. It's not a problem for science to worry about or focus on. Like, that's society needing to sort its shit out, not science needing to slow its roll, because
I mean, scientific progress shouldn't slow, but at the same time, if you want to talk about people needing to get their shit together, I mean, I would argue we also kind of fall under that umbrella, and the Doctor Who situation is also part of that. Oh yeah,
absolutely. Like, yep.
Homeboy literally just went and made 2 CRISPR people without anybody knowing, besides like him and his compatriots.
I mean, it's like a medical practice in the future kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, actually implementing it, society needs to get it shipped together before that ever. In my opinion, I think we need to get our shit together with healthcare before that ever becomes a reality.
No. Just bury your head in the sand. It'll go away. This too shall pass.
Yes, capitalist overlord.
Beast.
I think, I mean, look at the sequencing, right? 20 years ago, it was $3 million to sequence a genome, a human genome, and now it's less than 1,000. So, you know, the scale, how quickly this stuff goes is, you know, it's pretty fast. And as it goes down, it'll be more accessible to more people, but it needs to be, people need to understand it because, like, for example, like PCR, like if you don't understand PCR, or even if you do, you got to go and you're a jury, you got to sit there for 2 days. They got to be like, okay, so there's DNA in your body and everyone has different DNA. You know, it's fundamental for our society that these things actually, that these things are understood and understood well. So scientists have a good reason to outreach, in my opinion, you know, to try to explain this stuff. And honestly, like I knew this got big when my dad started like watching 60 Minutes on it and started asking me about it. You know, I was like, oh, dang.
I just, Maddie in Zygo's chat, I'm not putting science on a pedestal and saying it can do no wrong. I'm just saying that these problems that people are concerned about regarding using CRISPR to cure genetic diseases and stuff, like, I understand the concern, but I also think that the problem with the healthcare industry in this country is already like shit. So I guess when people bring that up, I'm like, well, let's fix the healthcare system rather than, like, you know, focusing on scientists bringing about this potentially life-saving technology and telling science to stop. Like, let's fix the core issue here. So
yeah,
I'm not putting science on a pedestal. Science
Also,
is not infallible.
There, you know, I know horrible things have been done in the name of science in the past, but there are some safeguards, peer review being one of them. You know, ethics codes, even though I hate ethics codes and I think they're kind of bullshit. But
me too, dude.
But yeah, it's not for, like, you know, because I want to do evil science. But anyway, sorry, I'm babbling.
I know they're two different issues, but they coalesce in this one hypothetical future. And yeah.
But like the thing is we knew back when Saccharomyces cerevisiae was edited by CRISPR that it's a good chance that humans could be edited, and we lost the ability for the United States to have like a transparent protocol that has good methods that could come out and say, hey, this is what we do. We're going to cure something that's really easy to cure, like PFK or something like that, has a, you know, single nucleotide change that we can easily change. And I mean, can CRISPR make
do it in mice first?
yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Put that money towards it so that we do generate that you know, CRISPR human, but that it's done safely. And you know, by saying hands-off approach, I mean, we invited China to do it. We've honestly, China, that was not the first person or the first people to be CRISPR modified. I guarantee
those
you.
are the first ones we found out about.
Exactly. I guarantee you that was being done for 5 years before that. I mean, everyone knew that it could happen. So I really feel like it's going to happen.
You don't think people before him would have taken credit? Because I feel like that's a pretty big title to claim, like the first scientists that genetically modified a human being, you know?
I agree with you.
Well, maybe they didn't get it right before Doctor Who.
Touche.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of secret labs in China that are doing a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what Gremlo said earlier. Like, did they Jack Ma Doctor Who? Like, in theory, like, I'd say it's like a semi-Jack Ma. Like, they didn't disappear him for, like, disobeying President Xi and you know, the CCP. I think it was more like they needed to make an example out of him, but at the same time, you know, assuming Doctor Who is like in mainland China, you know, I don't know how we verify that he's actually in prison and not like still toiling away in another secret Chinese laboratory. Like, that's a little tinfoil hatty, that much I'm willing to admit. But right, if we want to talk about whether or not people are going to adhere to any sort of ethical code or constraint on the use of this tool, you have a government that is willing to cast aside ethics very readily in this particular context, like China. Yeah, they have probably been doing it since long before we found out that they did it, and they might even be getting help stateside still. Who knows? Like, until we figure out more of this, and this is very much sort of adjacent to like a spy novel at this point, until we have more secret revelations, we're not going to understand the fullest extent to which the general scientific consensus around we shouldn't use this until we have pretty good control over it. We don't know how often it's being broken by who.
But the fear mongering like behind CRISPR is making people apprehensive to do studies that would eventually maybe lead to clinical trials. Like,
there's tons of,
I don't know.
There's tons
Where does the
of
fear come from, though? Is it just like evangelicals who like feel like we're playing God? Is it like a more structural fear, like
All of it.
This is new? Okay.
Yeah, it's a hodgepodge of everything.
I mean, it's like when you're playing guitar, it's like you're like, I can pluck one string, and then someone's like, yeah, but you could also pluck them all at the same time, and you're like, yeah, I could, but it's like we learn how to just pluck that one string over time, and there's been a lot of advancements in CRISPR that make it more targeted. So the guide RNA sequence has gone from 20 base pairs to 15 because DNA binding to one another is like a wet noodle. So if you have a really long wet noodle, you can just throw that on the wall and it's going to stick, right? But if you take a really small piece of spaghetti, it's not going to stick on a wall as readily. And there's also been Cas9 hybrids that have completely changed it. So like there's this thing called the FOK1 hybrid where it's like a hybrid of a previous technology, Talon, that are super specific with the guide RNA finding ability of CRISPR-Cas9. And that was very, very specific CRISPR cuts. And then you could also even, like, for example, using computer generated sequences. So you basically take that guide RNA sequence, that 20 base pairs, and just randomize it. And then you can see where it cuts. And so you can actually make a more targeted, more efficient guide RNA sequence through stuff like that. It's possible.
But I mean, this it goes back to our philosophy of science class, though, right? Like,
can you be 100%?
Okay, you have this technology, and you think it's more accurate and less off-targety, but how do you know? Like, it doesn't have any off-target effects until it does, and that has to manifest somehow for you to find out. Like, it's not like you're just gonna, a whole genome sequence every single cell type in a CRISPR person. Like, that's borderline impossible and unethical and insane.
With IVF or something, that would be totally doable.
Well, but keep in mind too, like, you don't necessarily know if you edit an embryo if something's going to persist over development, and then you hit a stem cell for a particular tissue type, and now the lungs are all fucked up or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many ramifications over biological development that even if you're just editing an embryo, you could edit one cell's genetic code, but then that cell turns into every other cell in the body, and there's a lot of in between from modifying the embryo to person born.
True.
And a lot of shit that happens after birth too, of course, I think, as we all know. But
we had a question from chat. Someone was asking about the cloned sheep. Whatever happened to them?
She died. Dolly died.
Yeah.
No, not
F in the
Dolly.
chat for Dolly.
S in the chat for Dolly. Dolly the sheep.
Oh, well, now that we've named it, I feel bad.
Oh, she was named in the 90s when she was made.
Yeah.
She was a...
Wow,
Special.
made is such a strange. I understand, like, that's the correct term. It's just so strange to think.
I mean, she was born. To be fair, like, she was actually born. She was just cloned.
Yeah.
I think she did have kids, like babies. I don't know.
Yeah, well, fact check that.
It's been a while since I read about Dolly. I just know she's dead.
I also think the science education portion that you all brought up is probably where a lot of this stuff comes from. The fear of, Dr. Frankenstein's monster.
Chimeras being,
And people are just learning about RNA and PCR. I never would have thought as a molecular biologist that PCR would be like in the lexicon and we would be talking about it all the time. It's nutty.
Oh, yeah. It gives you the disease, man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You go in, you get tested for corona, you get the fucking virus, you die. Like,
I mean, it's
population control.
It's a great point that, like, this stuff is so cheap and so easy to do now that, like, honestly, like, high school biology classes need to be including PCR and CRISPR experiments. Have the biology classes make their own CRISPR tomato plant. It's possible. It's easy.
They do.
That would be like the
like,
most fun week.
there are some high schools in my area that have like biotechnology classes, and they do PCR and
Cool.
like make E. coli, express GFP. Like, I never took one, but when I went to my undergrad, I heard about all these kids who had already done what we were doing in my undergrad class, and I'm like, well, that's not fucking fair. Thank you.
Yeah.
I still have my picture of my GFP E. coli.
Oh, nice. Look at that.
They were
Look at
my
that cute
babies.
PCR.
I was so proud of them.
I thought
My
I was
first
jealous of
biotech
kids
class.
getting iPads.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Yeah.
over here like taking
Yeah.
a picture of my GFP E.
What?
coli.
You had
Look at
iPads?
my babies.
One of them, well, it was an undergrad class that did like the synthetic chromosome on yeast. They basically cloned. There was like 300 kids in the class, and everyone got like 100 base pair chunk that they cloned, and they stitched it all together with Gibson or user cloning and.
They've also destroyed a chromosome.
A minimal
with
event, minimizing event.
With CRISPR, they just chopped it 1 billion times, and it just kind of.
I read a CRISPR paper on zebrafish, and they were showing the sequences. They put like a ton of different guide RNAs in there, and there's just these huge chunks in this genome that are missing, and you're like, dang, like that's still viable? Like, wow. It's so cool.
And I think one part of the CRISPR discussion that I think really gets underappreciated, and I think Grandma, you've probably heard me say this in relation to the COVID vaccines a bunch, but I think the same principle applies here. The two scientists who won the Nobel Prize, Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier, they did that with American taxpayer funding. Like that was a grant that was all public, and yet we're literally talking about a private entity in the Broad Institute having a patent, or many patents actually, worth billions with a B of dollars falling into their pockets. Like
That's how it works at a university doing research, and it's bullshit. But they claim your IP no matter what you end up creating.
Well, I mean, I think Broad itself is private. I know like people who were faculty at Harvard and MIT like started it up, and it turned into this big institute in and of itself. But I think regardless whether it's a university claiming your IP, like I agree with you, Amber, that's complete bullshit. But even if it's in the hands of a private company or a pharmaceutical company or biotech, like it shouldn't matter, right? If it was developed with taxpayer money, this needs to be something that nobody can patent, or they're allowed to have a very small percentage of the money and the government takes most of it. Like there has to be some recompense for the taxpayer, because ultimately the general public is who needs to benefit from this, right? We have to make sure that these things that we develop are used most widely, and we have equity in terms of access and affordability, right?
Because you just end up paying for it again when you need the treatment, and it's like,
yeah. And that was a big worry with the COVID vaccines, right? Like people were scared they were going to have to go pay for it when the rollout started. But thankfully, the government just bought a shit ton of doses, and you kind of paid for it twice anyways, but you didn't pay for it at the point of service. But it was more slush fund taxpayer dollars 2 times over. But again, like that was also developed on the back of NIH research and taxpayer money. Again, like why do we have a system like this set up to take all of our scientific discoveries and socialize the losses and privatize the gains? Like that's how it functions, and it's bullshit.
Man, it's so crazy. It's such a good example too of like there are research topics and ideas that like a for-profit company isn't going to do, right? They're not going to do 20 years of what's a bacteria defense mechanism. Like no, there's nothing to sell. There's no reason to do it. There's no like, how is a bacteria defending itself? That's a question that isn't profitable in and of itself. But now 20 years after that research, 20 years after Doudna is sitting there begging for NSF money, saying, guys, this is really important. I promise this is really cool. It can have big ramifications. They stumble into this genome editing tool and it happened magically, and it's like, whoa, they had no idea that that's what it was. But it just goes to show this kind of like this research that is publicly funded is so important and critical for us going forward in technological advancement.
Well, I like how you brought that up too. Like, it's a similar argument that we've had to make with pharma, right? Where they only do the work, like the R&D on things they think they can get a return from, on a return on their investment. that question of, how do bacteria and viruses defend themselves from each other over the course of billions of years of evolution? Like, no pharmaceutical or biotech company would ever think of doing something like that at all. Like, they wouldn't waste a single breath on uttering that idea, let alone any money dedicating resources to trying to figure that out. Like,
especially if the defense mechanism is against like a virus or something that we don't use to treat bacteria. Like if it was against an antibiotic, hell yeah, all hands on deck. But since it's from viruses, it's like, nah.
Yeah. I mean, the biotech that I worked for, I was working with yeast genetic engineering. So to kind of put the pieces together, so we have public funding, making this stuff, making the protocols. The paper gets published, and I read that in the biotech, and I'm like, damn, this is a really cool tool. And all I did was basically take the thing that they were using it for, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and then apply that same thing over here to my yeast that people hadn't worked on it with. So like they developed the hammer, I had a nail, and I just took that hammer, I literally bought it and just boom, used it. So that's how research and development goes in biotechs. Like they're not actually developing anything new necessarily. It's more of like the application to whatever they're working on is what they're really investing into.
Yeah, like I just can't get over the fact that they can just simply like waltz in and just get whatever the fuck they want. Like to me, it's just so bullshit. Like I thought the whole point of doing research was to help people. And yes, I understand like capitalism is a thing, of course. I rail about it all the time. But I just don't think both STEM lords and even like non-STEM lords, right? We really don't have a very broad perception of just how deeply intertwined the tendrils of capitalism are in what we do. Like it's all about just getting these things into market. It's the fucking Bayh-Dole Act of 1980 that made it very easy for academia to take its ideas and partner with private industry to start throwing all these things into the marketplace and help biotech spin-off companies make money. And now here we are, where we have one of the largest scientific discoveries of this generation, probably in a very long time, just being turned into a fight over billions of dollars of patents and not a fight over like, how do we use it next? Or what are the ethics? Like all of these other issues we talked about are in the background of the news cycle. Like the only thing that was in the news was this Microsoft Anna read article about the patents. Like where's the ethical discussion? Where's anything that isn't about the fucking money? It's nowhere to be found. And I dislike it. I dislike it very much.
Ethics in capitalism. What?
Yeah, it's just like ethics in games journalism.
True.
Just as useless.
Remember that.
About, I guess.
Remember that. Oof. I don't want to remember that.
Well, I mean, like
as a woman who plays games, it was a very hard time for me. I already get enough shit. All right. Oh man.
I can only imagine all of the unwashed, unclean, filthy gamer word spouters.
They all use the same lines. I think they go on Reddit and there's like a flow chart and they're just like, okay, female joins, do this. If she says this, okay, do this. They just follow the same
of incels.
Yeah.
I didn't realize incels were NPCs now. Are they that bad?
Oh, they're that bad.
Oh yeah, Grimlow has a whole
oh yeah, Marcus, you don't stream in the politics section.
We've been saved.
Buddy.
Wait, I missed something. What?
I was saying you don't stream in the politics section.
I tried a couple of times.
Gather.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying now. It's where they hide underneath the floorboards. I see.
Yeah. Every day it's leftism is brain disease. The 1994 Vuvuzela.
It's weird. I accuse Grimlow of hiring you to come into his chat because it was just like, are these can't be fucking real people, man. And I've accused Grimlow of coming into Marcus's chat and doing the same fucking thing.
Oh no, Marcus, he got a taste of it today with somebody who came in on a raid.
Yeah, I was in your chat earlier, Gremlo, and I got a taste of it.
Yeah.
I know Tuesday when I streamed, I got a very scientifically advanced transphobe in the science section. So we certainly have our reckoning to deal
Yeah.
with, but they're very much cloaked and couched in terminology. It's
Yes.
not as bad, but I could see what you're talking about in the politics section. I think when we were doing the Ministry of Science about the war in Ukraine, I did change the category to politics, and we got a couple of people who were being weirdly pro Russia. So yeah, I think people just hide in there and want to
Yeah,
fuck
I've
with
seen
people.
more Cyrillic in the last week than I care to ever see in my life.
So back to the
Yeah.
ethics and politics in university, I'm kind of interested on your thoughts about getting paid for your work, right? Or getting paid to do like public talks and stuff, because there are some people out there who've developed quite a nice little grift where they're making, $8,000 a speaking engagement, have a publicist and what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, professors are making money, right? Dowden's making money going around, and that's a thing. I mean, I guess you could theoretically have graduate students, people doing the work, have I'm on some patents, but I'm not going to get any royalties or anything from them necessarily unless they're used. But if they are, then all those profits, which is what Amber was talking about, it's all going to go to the university. I'm not, there's no profit share there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could think about it like this, Professor Q. The sort of speaking circuit and all of these other like honorariums and shit for academics to go around the country and talk about what they do at other universities. Like, if the pay for becoming an academic was sort of matching the amount of effort and sacrifice it takes to get to that point, going through grad school, getting a PhD, paying off loans that you had to take out to get there. Like if you were paid well enough, you wouldn't need to do that shit. So I think there is definitely some component of a lack of material benefit for going into academia as a career choice. I think that's something we all kind of empathize with for those of us academics, right? We don't get as much as we should for the work that we do. Obligatory unionize your workplace yesterday. But with that being said, it certainly creates a system for the Brett Weinsteins of the world to take advantage of the fact that they're being run out of all collective intellectual thought, and to help prop them up and keep them in the game and keep them relevant. So it seems like it's kind of an unfortunate necessity to really keep people, I guess, keep their coffers full. But it allows dipshits to also keep their coffers full to some extent. So for now, I think it's an unavoidable double-edged sword, but it would be nice if we increase people's pay in the first place to where we could just do away with the honorarium circuit and you could just get paid by your university to go travel somewhere and go give a talk if you felt compelled.
I mean, look, my stance on it is I have a job, I get paid a salary, I shouldn't demand a huge fee. It would be definitely nice. But the people I see profiting off of this, they're always at the top. So they're the ones that are the most well paid, have the most prestigious jobs, etc.
Because those are the only ones that people want to come talk and like do that kind of stuff. They're the Nobel laureates and shit like that.
But the admin cost is what I think that's a great point. Like all the admin is ridiculous. I mean, that'd be the way to solve this would be have the universities, democratically owned by the professors. I think that would be an interesting thought experiment. I don't know if any university would have that. I mean, right? No admin. Do you really need an administrator to tell you how to do your job? I don't know.
That could be even worse in some ways.
How?
Yeah. You have to be careful because you don't want certain professors, like especially the ones who are like running around and sexually abusing their grad students and shit, to have, some degree of power that can't be stripped from them to make the university run a certain way. So if you were to create a system like that, you would just have to be careful to have some sort of like check and balance to prevent rogue bad faith academics from derailing the entire thing. But at the same time, Greg, like I fundamentally agree with you.
There already is. Like the tenured faculty can be voted off, by their own tenured faculty.
Well, but then it gets to be a literal like episode of fucking Survivor at that point, right? Where they have their own factions and they're forming alliances and trying to manipulate a vote to keep some sort of shitheel on or off
It
the
kind
faculty.
of already exists.
I mean, democracy is scary, man, but it's a lot better than the oligarchical admin that's taking all the profits from what we're talking about. I mean, look at administrative profits on the administrator salaries and how it's expanded with tuition fees versus professor tuition, grad student stipends. It's obvious where the money's going.
Yeah. Oh, like I don't disagree. I would argue most university administrators could be Thanos snapped tomorrow and things wouldn't change for most of university. Like it would be fine. Literally, my university, when I got here, was in the search for a new president. We were headless. We had no president, and it didn't change a single fucking thing about the daily function. Mm-hmm. So a lot of universities create administrative positions for their friends. It's very much nepotism, and
for sure.
It's just all smoke and mirrors. Yeah, you could easily do away with a shit ton of that. I think the bigger issue there is their endowments, the fact that it's the administrators who have control over the endowments to a significant extent, and that money isn't used to pay people appropriately, to where we have to have all of these other stopgap measures like taking honorariums and speaking all across the country to keep people whole like they need to be. So I say go after their endowment. I don't know necessarily the legal bits of that, but if the endowment was more democratized by control of either administrators and professors, or just professors, like if it was a larger faculty-wide decision on how to spend a university's endowment, I think you would see a much larger improvement in the material conditions in academia.
Yeah, there's a long conversation to be had about labor mobilization within academia.
Very true.
Yeah. Honestly, we should probably make that another Ministry of Science episode, because Jesus Christ, I could probably commandeer an entire hour at least.
We should see if we can get somebody from IWW on for that.
Oh, I might be able to reach out to some folks from either UAW or maybe AFT, because I basically have a bunch of union organizers here on Speed Dial, since that's what we're all trying to do. Like, literally, the fucking medical residents and fellows at my university's medical school just unionized today.
Nice.
Which is like very unheard of. You rarely hear of like physicians or residents actually unionizing, because they make money, right? They make a fat stack once they get through their training, and then they can pay off their loans and buy an electric Porsche, and then they're all good. But there's a lot of awful shit that happens to them before then, and that's why they need a union, among other things. But we can absolutely talk about that shit. Go ahead.
Are you able to with your numbers on Speed Dial, get a trucker convoy to surround your university?
Oh, I don't think it's quite that bad. Although our university staff union just literally had a honk and wave event today where people were driving by and honking. So
See, you got it.
We're halfway there.
Playing Ram Ranch, and
I feel so much. I knew I smelled freedom somewhere. Like
they're storming the quad.
It's like wow.
Gotta drive that freedom convoy right into the student union, brother. God. I can only imagine too, because there's actually a massive protest at our student union over the fact that our university covers up a lot of sexual assault cases, especially from the athletes. But there was a massive protest during admissions visits where people were like bringing their kids for admission, and there was a massive protest there at the student union. Honk and wave event was also at the student union. You could literally have the Freedom Convoy probably show up to this particular street, and you would have struck the entire town. Like, it would derail the entire city, because that one street is how you get into downtown. Jesus Christ. You shouldn't have given me that idea. You've done something very dangerous here tonight.
I mean,
robots.
The research, the person that I do research with told me about this story where a family whose member had melanoma, which is the type of cancer we research, donated a fat stack of cash for melanoma research, and the head of the institute decided to just distribute it across all cancer research going on in the institute. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our admin takes 60% of all the grant money that we get in. We get in $1 million grant, we get it awarded to our lab. The UC just takes 60% right off the top.
And I thought those grants traveled with you, but I found out that no, they don't actually travel with you.
Are you serious? Oh my
I mean, I guess it
gosh.
depends on the grant, but
Oh my
most of the time it's awarded to the institution.
See, we need
So
democracy.
crazy because like the narrative that we often hear that's like anti-science, anti-intellectual is that scientists are doing, you know, all of this just so they can get grants and then do nothing. Meanwhile, the grants are pennies.
No, no.
Yeah, it's breadcrumbs, and then a decent portion of those breadcrumbs are literally stolen from you, and it's entirely legal, and there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe if they perceive nothing's going on, it's because we don't have the money to do something, because it keeps getting stolen.
Yeah, because I mean, basically all of the, I mean, at least for us, it's all of the labs are basically funded independently by the professor. So that professor goes out, begs for money from these federal institutions, and then they get money back, and then that is their kind of like cash crop that they can pay people with. So they have to pay people's salaries, they have to pay people's medical expenses. This really fucking pisses me off, actually, because the idea that we have money that's been specifically designated for the NSF, NIH, this is science money. Okay. And just because we couldn't get our shit together and have national health care, now we have fucking our money that we've gotten allocated for science paying for healthcare instead. Oh, hell no, man. That really makes me mad. Like that's for an experiment. And, yeah, it's a big part of hiring someone. You know, you have their salary, you have their reagents, you have their experiments, you have their instruments, you have their healthcare. It's expensive to hire someone.
And I know my my research advisor, before he became like assistant faculty, he worked for a little while at a biotech company that he helped start up while he was a grad student. And he basically is their official grant writer. But I think he gets some degree of the money from that company, which he then uses to try and fund his academic lab best he can.
Wow.
So you know, you have to basically go into industry to make academia like financially sustainable. Like the fact that you have to do that kind of a workaround is just fucking stupid. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Professor Q, I know that was probably a series of roundabout answers to that question about like the speaking circuit and whatnot. What brought that up?
So I'm trying to create parallels where I see them with like what goes on with, you know, the kind of health sciences and hard sciences and what we have in social sciences. So social sciences, to kind of compensate or make a little extra money, their side hustle is the speaking circuit. And it's been a hot topic in the last couple years about, hey, why are we paying so much to these people when it's their job to communicate science, right? On the other hand, I think being able to own part of your patent could be a really powerful recruitment strategy for universities at a time where they're having trouble keeping people inside higher ed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need more research institutions.
Yeah, I just don't know, like, you know, not everybody who is in like biology or, you know, the quote unquote hard sciences, like not everything is necessarily a patentable thing. Like, you know, my project ultimately boils down to, you know, reapplying an already FDA approved medication for a different disease and figuring out, you know, the biology in between doing that. So it's not like we're inventing anything new, but rather just trying to repurpose something that exists. But it certainly would be, you know, part of a hopefully much larger effort to, you know, retain people, right? If you want to incentivize certain researchers in their laboratories to say, yeah, maybe you give them more control over their intellectual property, which should have all of it.
It's not just the IP either. Like my PI is trying to start clinical trials and start a company and get the patents and FDA approval for his shit. And like the university has just been dragging their feet to get him, you know, out the door with this. And now they're like, okay, let's do it. Like right now, let's get it done. Like, why isn't this done now? It's like you've been dragging your feet for a year, but yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So it's not even just IP. It's like anything you do as a university, like faculty, is under the university's power.
Democratize the universities.
Yeah, I totally agree. Take all these admin fucks out of the equation. I mean, no offense if anybody, or their family is an administrator, but like those jobs shouldn't exist. They deserve a better job that isn't that.
Bring it back. We can knock them out with the CRISPR.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, let's knock out their brain function with CRISPR. And that's actually kind of an interesting thought now that you put that into my head, Greg. Could CRISPR be used as a bioweapon?
Absolutely. I'm not going to go into the details here, but yeah, absolutely.
Marcus wants to do terrorism. Oh my God.
There used to be a class at my my university that one of the professors taught. It was microbial bioweapons. And he talked about all the ways that microbes could be engineered and stuff, and they took it down, but I talked to him about it and stuff. It's gnarly. I mean, it's a good thing to learn about, and to, you give air to these ideas, so then we can actually have some transparency to them, and you can actually see if they're happening or not. That's my opinion. A lot of another approach is like, we don't talk about this, we never bring this up.
That never works.
Exactly.
Abstinence only sex education.
Yeah.
For example,
good comparison.
in my state, it's great.
Yeah, it's just you have to talk about it. And I forget, man, what was it? There was a huge battle a couple years ago talking about there was some disease that could aerosolize or something, and there was Nature and Science, they were battling on whether or not they should actually publish it or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. There's some crazy bioterrorist weapon application that like people were like, should we publish this? Should we not? And then I forget which magazine or something they did publish it, but abridged. So they didn't have like the whole sequence.
So the other reason I asked that question is because I just got a report back from my publisher on how many copies of books got sold, and it was depressing. And no wonder no one ever sees royalties from academic presses. It's fucking pathetic and sad, and I just want to like jump off a cliff because they sold well, but well is not enough to get me any compensation for it. So not that I'm in it for that, but it would be nice, little extra.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it shouldn't be a situation where you're dependent on the extra shit to keep you like whole and tide you over. It's just like, this is something that I think we collectively, as those in academia, really need to start pushing and putting the idea in people's heads. We are workers and employees too. We just happen to be, very much intellectually involved, but at the end of the day, we're still doing work. We still deserve the fruits of our labor in the form of our IP and other benefits in terms of discovering something or trying to start a clinical trial. You deserve the intellectual benefit that you get from the work that you do, and you deserve actual pay for what you do, right? Mm-hmm. Everything is valuable. Even conservatives will tell you that I don't need any libtards doing gender studies, but at the same time,
as soon as that information is valuable.
Exactly. Yeah. And nobody needs gender studies until their kid is trans at the age of 11, and then shit hits the fan. You know what I mean?
Or God forbid that their kid is in a class with a trans.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, God forbid that. I can imagine a situation like that in Texas brewing now, where they literally are incentivized to bounty hunt their trans classmates. Jesus Christ.
Wild. Yeah, we went over that earlier this week. So incredibly fucked up.
They're really liking those bounty hunting laws in Texas lately, huh? The abortion, the trans, it's just all about it.
Going back to the topic, for real, this is a grift that someone could have. I have a CRISPR thing that I've made that is going to make your kid not trans. I can give you some type of injection or something like that, or some medical treatment.
Trans gene.
Oh no.
Just wait.
Amazing. That's good.
Actually, you bring up a really good
Sorry,
point.
transgene was a pun.
You just brought up 2023's CPAC discussion.
But
No, it's a pun because the transgene is something in my molecular biology too. So it was like
it's deep.
Yeah.
It's deep, dude. It's deep.
It's very
deep in the sauce.
Inside baseball.
But I think that could get us back on topic, maybe, because I am old enough to remember the quest for the gay gene in science and how that was given up. And so, one of the ethical questions about this stuff is who's going to decide what is, a normal, or a desirable trait to have.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I mean, I totally agree. Like it's the idea there is no normal. It's just there is no normal human. It's just all human experience, and there's a lot of people. I know, like, for example, even the cochlear implants that a lot of people can have, like the deaf community isn't okay with that. There's a lot of pushback on that. So it's an interesting discussion. But I feel like there's, I don't know. I mean, whether or not those negative eugenics things go from like straight up diseases to what people think like that, traits like that, it's completely different. It's gross.
I think another issue with researching stuff like that, or like trying, to CRISPR it or whatever, it's just not like a necessary research endeavor in my opinion. Like, I don't think it really matters, and I don't think most people want to know. Like, I just don't think, you know what I mean? Like, it's like when we were having the conversation in your chat on Tuesday, Marcus, with person like asking about the scientific backing behind trans people. I was like, even if there is one or isn't one, it doesn't matter. Like, just let people be who they want to be. And like, I don't know. I feel like the research is if you did research into that, it would be kind of frowned upon by the LGBT.
For sure.
Like, from what I've been told by people in the community.
I mean, it ought to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a pretty similar amount of this sentiment for people living with autism, because my lab actually has like a project dedicated towards looking at some of the effects of what is being called like the leading autism susceptibility gene. But even like that phrase in and of itself draws ire from people living with autism, because they feel like their existence is being reduced to a certain piece of genetic code, and it's not, their entirety of their human. Like, at the same time, I think we have to walk a fine line, because we could still make scientific progress in understanding sort of the impact of brain development in people who have autism, especially because those folks often have other like comorbidities and medical issues that result as a consequence that are kind of along for the ride. So we could, I think, if we're bringing this back to the notion of like positive or negative eugenics, it's all about who uses the tools and for what purpose. We would have to try and, in like a more professional context, like a master's or PhD education, honestly, we could, at this point, we should probably mandate like an ethics class that goes just beyond like, if you see your professor cheating or altering a figure, what do you do? Like, that's everybody's ethics class. The government requires you to take it, but we, on top of that, probably need an additional ethics class where it's like, are people simply reducible to a simple gene? Is there a trans gene? Sorry to invoke the pun again, but is there a gay gene? Is there a trans gene? Is there an autism gene? And even if so, like, here's why we shouldn't reduce these people to the simple presence or absence of a gene.
There's a specific reason for this, right? Because in all negative eugenics, like ethics ideas, it's not like what happens if we cure the disease, right? If PFK or whatever it was if it's cured, then it's like, then the genes changed and if everything goes right, that's great. The problem in ethics is, what do you do with that 0.1% where it fails? And that's the bigger question. It's like, is that still okay? Do we still go forward? And that would be the same thing with whatever genetic mutation that people would want to have is, what do we do with those failed mutations.
As presumably, right, they might this I hope this comes out the right way, but they might be really bad off, right, if the therapy fails, and that could lead to like other health problems, right?
Exactly.
Oof.
But maybe not. You know, who knows? That's
genetic underclass. Wow. Oof.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, almost to maybe like give us some food for thought to end on, because this is, I think, something I thought about earlier and then I forgot and then I just remembered it. Have you guys read the book Flowers for Algernon?
No.
Negative.
No.
Oh wow, Jesus. Okay, that's like an old classic.
I've heard
Like,
of it.
I had to read this in like middle school English. Damn.
Mitch said he has in chat.
Yeah, it's a very good book, and I think it's very pertinent to this discussion. If I remember correctly, I'm not going to try and like spoil everything, but I think it's a dude who like originally was born like your average or below average intelligence, and then there is some sort of like magical scientific advancement that could like make him really smart again, but only temporarily. Like it could basically turn him into a genius for a short amount of time. And then he like, once he took this treatment, he began to realize like how fucking cruel and evil the world was to him, and like how everybody just fucking sucked. And then he was like, well shit, now like I want to be stupid again, so I don't have any idea of what's going on because I fucking hate the world. But it's a very, very good book. But it kind of brought this thought into my head of, you know, when people think of science, right? You know, the cure sometimes is worse than the disease, or so they'll say. You know, if we actually reach a point with CRISPR where, due to like an off-target effect or something, like we're screwing somebody up, you know, even if it's just like in their head, you know, even if there's nothing overtly wrong with them, you know, maybe they're now suddenly depressed as fuck because they got CRISPR'd for a genetic disease and now they just don't want to be alive. Like, there's just so many implications and ramifications to this. Like, I don't see how we can actually implement any of this without doing a whole lot of clinical trials that you could argue are very unethical to even conduct in the first place, to limit the impact of something like this, to prevent it from harming the broader population as a whole.
For real. I mean, that like brings me back to this experience I had. I used to work for Geek Squad, and we used to install home routers for people, you know, and you'd like help people and get their home Wi-Fi all set up. But invariably, every single time, the person's calling back like the next month, like something's not working on my computer, and it's completely unrelated to the Wi-Fi router. But now they have like a pop-up that they're calling you on, and you're like, that's not related. I'm sorry. Like, we're not going to help you, but you have to explain that to them, and they don't get it, and they're getting mad at you. It'd be the same way, I feel like, with any type of genetic mutation that you do with these people, like in that their life is, that course has been taken for them, and they don't have any choice. So anything that comes from that, like that, the mental thought of my life could be different if this didn't happen, if maybe I'm depressed. Is my depression caused by the CRISPR? Is there an off-site target mutation? How do you know that? You know, there's just so many ramifications long-term that I think it'd be really interesting to study these people that have been genetically modified. And so kind of sad that they're not going to be known to science, I think.
Yeah.
Your Geek Squad story described my entire time working in IT.
So someone in my chat said, why not do trials on terminally ill first? Terminally ill people.
That's what I would want. I mean, if it was my decision, like, I want the most experimental shit that you got, man. Like, let's go. You know, like,
there's a question of consent that has to be taken along with that.
Yeah, because informed consent in the terminally ill always raises the question, you know, are they so, you know, disease stricken that they're not thinking straight and can't think clearly and might be, you know, manipulated into doing it. Yeah. But at the same time, like, for at least like experimental therapies for the disease that they're dying of, there are things that are called right to try, which basically means, you know, if they're going to die anyways, let's get some data off of it if they're willing and able to like give it one last hurrah. So, you know, if someone's like dying of cancer and there's an experimental drug that really hasn't been tested very much, they say, well, fuck it. If, you know, the patient and their family, if everyone's on board with it, then we can give it a shot and see what happens. But that obviously, like Gremlo said, involves a lot of informed consent. So theoretically, we could almost do like the pre-death version of donating your body to science in a way. Like,
yeah, exactly.
If you just want to be a guinea pig, you could theoretically volunteer.
Wouldn't that be extremely difficult to do with diseases other than cancer? Since I don't know, are other diseases like classified in stages like cancer is?
If you're sticking to the treatment specifically for the disease you're dying of framework, then yeah, that would probably be pretty impossible. Like, somebody's dying of chronic kidney disease, like you can't just like CRISPR that shit. But if somebody's dying of cancer and then you want to try doing a CRISPR just to make sure your editing of some other gene for some other disease works properly in that person, like you're just using them basically as a test tube. Like in the setting of someone who's dying from cancer, this CRISPR worked, something like that. But that's kind of a big ethical discussion too. Are the dying now suddenly test subjects because they're fucked anyways? Like there's something to be said about quality of life, hospice, stuff like that.
Yeah. There's a term that we often use whenever we discuss human rights and ethics within the criminal justice, that there's no consent while under duress. So there is an ethical question of whether or not the duress that you feel whenever you are threatened by this disease calls into question your judgment.
Yeah, one Megalomorph in chat also basically raises the point that even if people were found to be of sound judgment, even in the presence of said duress, the consequences of something like what we're talking about are like entirely random. So can you really even have informed consent when nobody understands what the consequences could be? Like,
this is my informed consent. Be really experimental on me. I'm letting you know right now.
This Discord call is legally binding.
I was gonna say you should probably consult an attorney to write your will up.
I'm gonna order some CRISPR online and set up my kitchen lab. Are you interested?
Yeah, dude, shoot me up with that stuff. Give me some of the pink, some of the yellow. CRISPR.
It's not sterile at all. You might get like a deadly infection, but
fuck it.
I remember the Joe Rogan questions, everything, hacker lab, whatever they're called, biohackers. The guy who was showing Joe around was asked a question like, what are the standards for like what qualifies as a lab? And the guy was like, if you have a table and a sink, that's it. I was like, okay, cool.
Okay, buddy.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, the standard's very low at that point. Like,
yeah.
Yikes.
Now I'm interested in like
in a secluded area.
It was Walter White showing Joe around. Like, what the fuck? What is this episode? Now I kind of want to watch it.
Even Walter White would know better.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have PPE
literally
on, man. They're taking it seriously.
Yeah, even in the New Mexico desert RV meth lab, they were more careful than Josiah Zayner.
So actually, there is a real Walter White, and he did actually cook meth. And there's a video on it on YouTube you gotta watch because he's actually a high school chemistry teacher. It's fucking hilarious.
He's actually pretty cool.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that
You can't make
which
that
one's
shit
the
up.
chicken and which one's the egg?
That's what I was just about
The
to say.
TV show came first.
Oh, okay. And he just happened.
Yeah, he was pissed that like they were basically blowing his cover. So.
Oh my god. Yeah, imagine Bryan
Fascinating.
Cranston made you lose out on your meth lab venture. I mean, as long as he didn't have lung cancer, then I guess maybe the story has a happy ending. Maybe he's not making meth anymore.
Oh no, he got caught by the government.
Yeah.
His
Oh,
kids
fuck.
were taken away. Like, it's
Wait, did he actually? Like, is this a,
Yeah,
this
is
isn't like? Oh, I
Is
thought
it
it was a
real, dude?
parody for a second.
No, totally not making it up. Serious.
Wow.
So here I am being optimistic. That's what I get.
I thought this was like a parody YouTube channel or something. Someone's just like,
Nope. I think it was
really?
a Vice special, maybe.
I think it was Vice. If AMC really wants to get back into the based on a true story made into a hit series, I want to see them do the Libertarian Bear Town. None of
Wait.
you are aware of what that is. A bunch of libertarians bought a small, like, rural community, and basically bears took it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yo, based bears. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Are you
Yeah.
saying they had no shared? They had no
Well,
shared
between like
defense.
living in filth, there being no like sanitation regulations, it kind of turning into like wild, wild west, and also like a meth farm. Bears discovered it, and the libertarians fed the bears, and that's like the one thing you don't do.
Rubinsky in my chat asked me to clarify that they were right-wing libertarians.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Are you talking about the Articles of Confederation, which led to the the ratification of the Constitution, or do you mean?
Well, I mean, Gremlo then also invokes the idea of, every time you talk libertarian, it always boils down to who adjudicates. In this case, it was the fucking bears that adjudicated.
Mother Nature has spoken.
Yeah. She has found
Alabama.
you not based.
The Walter White was in Alabama.
Oh my gosh.
That is wild. That is such a wild thought.
That's such a coincidence. No, I wasn't a big Breaking Bad. Like, I never watched the show. I watched like the first episode, and
it gets better. It gets good. It's really
fascinating individual.
It's honestly a really good show.
I teach criminology, so I get to look into all the bullshit.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen Gattaca, so I mean, what does that make me?
Yeah, you should absolutely watch Gattaca. Very good movie.
I just realized
all these people using it as a weapon against me. Do I want to?
I just realized, like last week when someone mentioned it, that it was made from the nucleotides, like letters, like the title.
Oh, you didn't realize the title?
Yeah,
I was like,
for all these years, I had no idea. So funny.
Where'd you think the random name came from?
I don't know where.
It's a catchy name, Gattaca.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've never seen Gattaca, but from what it sounds like, not watching Gattaca as a biologist is like not watching They Live as a leftist.
Yeah. It's like a cardinal sin.
Yeah.
And it's got the guy from American Psycho in it, right? He's in that movie.
Christian Bale?
I just don't really watch a lot of movies.
I know it was Jude Law and Ethan Hawke, I thought.
Oh, maybe okay, fuck. I made that up. Mandela effect.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
So wait. I have one last question. I'm sorry.
Do it.
Opinions on the implication, or like how do I want to word this? On people, on designer babies. Let's just leave it at that. What are the opinions of the round table on designer babies?
Oh, mine's easy. I'll go first. I don't want kids, never gonna have kids. They're too expensive.
I mean, like society as a whole, not just your potential children.
Oh.
I'm glad you went there. I was going to take the antinatalist take as well. I think very weird. I can understand the desire for like if you have like a hereditary disorder or like something going on like within your family tree that's going to cause problems. I can understand the desire, but if we're talking about like I want red hair with green eyes and them to be 6 foot tall, and that's like your
I feel like that's everyone's stance, and that's why I don't understand why designer babies are such like this thing. Like I feel like most people are like, yeah, for health, yeah.
It's like again the question of like this is only going to be in the hands of those who can afford it. So we just have a society like of people who are way at the top who are just like the Ubermensch. And then everyone else is still having to deal with, diseases and stuff like that. It's just, no, not for me.
Yeah, I think so long as there's such vast income inequality, I think it makes it sort of a non-starter for non-health reasons. If we hypothetically lived in, the stateless, classless, moneyless society, then yeah, we could entertain that notion of doing it for reaching the peak optimal human form in particular areas. Make super athletes or super brainiacs and STEM lords and what have you. But I don't think we'll ever reach that point realistically, at least not in our lifetimes. So it should probably be something that's just mandated on a non-health basis to be like forbidden at all costs.
Yeah.
But if Doctor Who is any indication, like that's not going to stop people, especially if they have state backing, to try it anyways to see what they can come up with.
Yeah.
Which then, like that also makes me wonder too. Like if we want to talk about competing in sports or like the Olympics, you know, instead of blood doping, we're gonna have gene doping now. Like,
Yeah,
we're
microbiome.
just gonna have.
Yeah,
that's fucking insane,
Yeah,
and you can't even screen for that shit either.
That's like the more applicable thing, I think. I mean, we're in our lifetimes, we're definitely gonna have, you know, antibiotics is gonna wane. We're not going to use antibiotics. We're going to use probiotics, and the fact that we're going to be enhancing the immune system specifically for things that we want. And
Or join Europe with phage therapy.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What? You guys are
Ooh.
bringing up all kinds of new stuff here at the end. I feel.
We got another 3 hours, bro. We got. I mean,
Yeah, that's how many applications there are. We could keep going. And that's frightening.
I mean, I talk about this stuff all the time. Wednesday nights at 9. You should come, Professor Q. I think you would like it. But for real though, I think that we're gonna have, you know, basically we can design in the future coming up, pretty much right now, the community of microbes that's gonna live within your gut, right? And we'll be able to figure out the best concoction and try to put those species in there. We're gonna get past the poop fecal transplant thing very easily, I think, and we're gonna see it. In terms of like designer babies, I mean, does anyone have kids here? You know, kids? So as the breeder, so I mean,
As the designated breeder of the Discord call.
so it's like, for me, I'm weird. My wife and I don't look at the gender, you know, of our kid, because we just want a healthy kid and I want mom to be healthy afterwards. That's all I care about. But
Aww.
The absolute gut-wrenching thing is opening up that email where it's going to tell you your genetic abnormalities, you know, and it's really a thing where you're like, I mean, we could, based off of what happens here, I mean, you could be terminating the pregnancy when you open up that email. So, and it's really sad, you know, based off of like a lot of genetic things that could be bad, like trisomy 18, which is like not really survivable, and a lot of other stuff where it's just, you're not capable of doing it. And so if there was some way of saying that I wouldn't have to do that, you know, like I wouldn't have, you know, I could have a healthy baby, then I would be okay with that. You know, I think that, you know, the idea of, you know, I like to be surprised, you know, like for the gender, obviously, but then it's also fun to, you know, see how they grow up and they look like mom or dad, or, oh, you have your nose or your eyes and your smile, and, you know, to kind of like lose that, I wouldn't want that.
So here's my real take. My real take is, yeah, it's just like a vaccine, right? Like it's a preventative health measure. So yeah, I'm all for it. But only, so here's my fake take. I'm only interested in it if it can be used to increase the amount of adrenochrome we can harvest from the children.
Yeah, you could probably I mean, you joke, but like you actually got me thinking. You could probably turn up adrenaline synthesis from the adrenal cortex.
Don't give Hillary Clinton ideas. Come on.
Prank call.
CRISPR
My husband says that he can't make jokes with me ever because I do the same shit. I'm like, well, could you? I don't know.
The primers could be on my desk at 10 a.m. tomorrow.
I mean, you joke, but I do culture, or other people in my lab culture those cells, so I could actually do this.
There you go.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll get back to you, Professor Keel.
Oh, the lights are reddish orange at the perfect time over there.
Lightning in the background now.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
yeah, I think that was a pretty good discussion. It was pretty thorough, and
I'm sad we
thankfully-
didn't cover Jennifer Doudna regretting her discovery.
who is this?
The person who got, one of the people who got the Nobel Prize for CRISPR.
Oh,
She says it in that
what was,
video.
what was her regret?
It was.
yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I'm sorry if you guys like want to go. That's fine.
Yeah.
too.
No.
No, I'm
You've
good.
piqued my interest.
I totally like forgot that aspect. So
Yeah, it's
thank
just
you
like
for
an
reminding me.
Oppenheimer moment.
She had a nightmare.
Huh.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Oh god, you linked
She
this
had
video,
a
didn't you?
nightmare. I did. I linked it. It's got Richard Dawkins in it too, but we can just watch like the Jennifer Doudna parts if you'd like.
Here, are you able to add it to the sync tube?
I can find it. Yeah. Actually, I linked it in the Discord.
Yeah, let me.
Can you grab it out of the Discord?
Yeah, is it in the react to this?
Yeah, it's the first post in the
Oh, I
React
see it.
to
I
this
see it. I
channel.
see it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let me throw it in here.
Okay.
All right, this is a. Oh yeah. Okay, this is pretty palatable. All right, now if you still have your sync tubes pulled up, go ahead and pull them up once again.
Open your books to chapter CRISPR.
Pretty much.
Yeah, this video's got like a ton of people, a couple scientists and a couple like there's like one guy in the defense sector of the US government who has very
Questionable takes.
yeah. I was trying to think of a good way to state that, but it was coming up empty.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and run it, and then I'll be watching from my phone as I take a quick bathroom break, but I will be right back.
Okay.
God, he looks so old.
I know.
Oh no, it's Steven
Ew.
Pinker.
Ew.
Oh yeah.
Pink or bad?
Oh yeah. I just love that her nightmare is very like Twilight Zone. Like it's basically straight out of the Twilight Zone. There's an episode exactly like the dream she describes. It's fucking hilarious. I didn't actually remember her saying that, so you
That's so
put
funny.
that in my brain.
I
You
did
still
not-
get credit.
That is so funny.
Came back to the mic just to
brag.
gloat.
Call me Doudna. I want you. I'm changing my name. Call me Doudna from now on. Giving it to you for free.
They're making a bioweapon.
They can make them before. They could make them before. They just make them faster now.
He acts like this is so easy to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that Mr. Clean?
What? Designed to do menial
Workers
tasks?
with really big ape arms.
What? What is he talking about? What is this dude
The
talking?
takes. The takes. Because this is so simple. Ugh.
Oh, Dawkins.
He does sound smart because he has the British accent, but he's also pretty smart.
That's the
Yeah,
joke I
his
tell my
takes on
class.
religion are not desirable.
I mean, yeah, a little militant, but
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
I think it's a dick on his tie. Maybe not.
I think it's a deer.
I wanted it to be a dick.
God, what
They're
is
so
oh
cute.
Lord.
fucking tie? He's ready
It's,
for a ride.
I don't know.
I would wear that. I would wear that to Pride.
Hey, Dolly.
Rip.
There she is, taxidermied.
Oh,
Oh my God.
I mean, it could happen. You could clone a human.
Berg. Berg. Oh,
You can hear his huge dick flapping out the window of his Subaru.
I think it was a Subaru, unironically.
what a visceral image.
You're welcome. That's what I think of every time I hear one of those. Wow, that guy's got a huge schlong. There he goes.
oh, I love you.
You unlock the code.
As cringe as he is, he makes a good point here.
think IQ is like the last thing that you would want to target. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's not a good measure of anything either. It's just a measure if you can take a test.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not do like pollution, like lead? You know, something like that. Like
IQ is BS. He made a good point, but bad subject to choose.
Yeah, bad messenger. Good point.
every single one of them brought up Nazi Germany independently.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for Jennifer Doudna's Nightmare. It's gold.
It has great hair.
Greg's is better.
No, thanks, pal.
We were talking about your hair in my chat.
Oh no.
All good things.
Oh, thank you.
What a sentence. What's in genetic bathwater? Never mind.
Fluid?
Never mind.
The great
Never
woman.
mind. I'm putting that sentence back in my mouth. Mm-mm. Oh, is this it?
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, that is a Twilight Zone.
It is. It's called Eye of the Beholder.
It's one of my favorites.
Here's literally straight from the Twilight Zone. 1959. Where everyone gets plastic surgery to look like pigs. That's what I think, Lane Bear.
Ah,
Anyone
way
else
too
have
dank.
the desire to just scream into the void loudly?
Yeah, because I'm frustrated at this. Like it's like any type of so like humans can't evolve anymore. Like we don't do artificial or natural selection obviously now. So we just are stopped. We're stuck at this stage now. We can't make any progress as humans because this one fucking idiot killed 13 million people. And now like everyone and any type of progress people want to make, it's like it just gets constantly brought up. I don't know. It's just really
I mean,
frustrating
Well,
to me.
I think
It
it's the
should
tie
be.
with eugenics. That's
Right.
that's the big tie there, and I think it's important. But I also think that we should proceed with caution, but still proceed.
Yeah, no, there is a responsible path forward. It's just we have to be in a larger sort of institutional consensus on what that path is and not allow this to sort of fall again into the hands of rogue actors like Doctor who might have state backing, because then you're opening Pandora's box and it's almost kind of like a nuclear arms race in a way. Like the outcome isn't necessarily mutually assured destruction, but if you have, Chinese physicians with government backing setting a precedent for CRISPRing the fuck out of an embryo with very little sort of research or intent about controlling for, off-target effects, then you're basically letting everybody else sort of do the same thing. Any country that can get their hands on enough scientists to do something like this is going to do it. Like everybody's going to start doing it to try and get a leg up and get something patentable or create a treatment for something or even get started on the designer baby end of things. And that's where the eugenics really rear their ugly head, right? If you have this CRISPR proliferation of sorts, people are going to use their own ideas and viewpoints about the world and about people and possibly about race as a backdrop for how they use that tool, right? If you arm people with that tool, they will use it to fulfill whatever means or to fulfill whatever ends they want to fulfill, using CRISPR as the means. So I think that's kind of the higher order, like ethical and philosophical thought, not necessarily this massive, nobody's allowed to use CRISPR until we figure it out. Like, we use CRISPR all the time. Like we can still use it, right? We're not trying to CRISPR an embryo right now. So it's something we can still use to progress.
I mean, I think it's like it. So kids, kids is like a completely different ethical argument, right? Because now you're talking about consent, and like I don't even like circumcise my boys because I don't want them to have this lifelong decision made for them, and I'm not comfortable with that. So I think that for me risking their life for a negligible, maybe tangible, maybe like IQ benefit is really weird. That doesn't make any sense to me. But like for me, like dude, I want a GFP tattoo. I want like I want all the stuff. I want all the cool things. So I feel like it's kind of frustrating to me, and we're so strict. The FDA is so strict, and a lot of international treatments for drugs and cool things like we can't use in the United States already. And I just feel like we kind of are a little falling behind here. And we're talking about, it's a good thought experiment, but at the same time, like we are kind of limiting our ability to access these new technologies in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, I think, COVID certainly kind of lifted the lid off of agencies like the FDA in terms of how inefficiently they function and almost how behind the times they are in terms of actually understanding what the fuck is happening and trying to make decisions fast enough for it to matter. Yeah, I don't like disagree. I think we can maybe think of this on like a spectrum of harm, right? Like at the farthest end of the spectrum, we have, eugenics, childbirth, and, the legacy of Nazi Germany to contend with. But maybe farther down, towards the more acceptable end of the spectrum, we have things like, GFP tattoos or being able to, CRISPR something in somebody on a somatic basis that doesn't affect whether or not their kids are going to inherit the change or something like that. Yeah. So I think, it's up to us, right? Like, again, this is just a tool. We are the people in the scientific community using the tool. So it's up to us to actually sit down and discuss what these, acceptable standards of use are. I agree with you, like rhetorically in the video, it's kind of weird for them to frame it like that. It has the possibility for a bad thing. Therefore, we can no longer use it or like take it seriously, when it's like, no, what the fuck? Like, if we don't use it for bad things, then it's objectively good. Like, it just depends on what we do with it.
I mean, there's also, if we engage in the hypothetical, there's another branch of history where Hitler has CRISPR and doesn't murder 13 million people because he has access to his genetic modification tool and he doesn't need to do that.
Well, I mean, at that
I don't know
point,
if that's an. I mean,
I'm not sure that's a one-to-one analogy. I
I'm
think
just saying, if
you're
we're
probably
talking about
looking for
all the
Hitler got into art
possibilities,
school.
I'm talking about all the possibilities in an ethical world. Like we're I don't know. I mean, we
that's
don't know.
not ethical
We don't know.
though. I mean, he'd
Hitler's
still be
intent.
doing it on. Yeah.
Yeah, like Hitler's intent was to like actively purge bloodlines and shit because he had a pretty demented conception of race and what he thought was the ideal human form. If he had our knowledge and our tools like CRISPR, then you could probably argue he might have had an enhanced ability to actually seek people out and eliminate their ability to reproduce if they were not pure Aryan, but Aryan enough to be allowed to live. You just can't have kids, and then they get CRISPR'd out of fertility. Like you could come up with all sorts of possible arguments for what Hitler could have done if he had that technology.
But like, okay, so that technology that you're talking about is sequencing, though. Why doesn't this ever come up, like this eugenics thing ever come up with sequencing? Because now we're able to detect and create this caste society based off of mutations.
How are you going to know what gene causes what? The only way we know is knockout experiments, and like, who knows if what you knock out only has that one effect, or if it's one gene.
I agree.
I mean,
sequencing
sequencing is just a readout. Like,
but
you have to
means
be able to
nothing
interpret
without-
the readout.
You say, "Oh my gosh, I don't." If if you don't have this gene mutation, you're not in the cool club. I mean, the kid. I don't know. I mean, it kind of happens right now, right? With the sequencing of DNA microarrays that you have, and you get that back, kind of like sees like whether or not you can do this, or tells you what you can do that.
Yeah, we just did one of those. We just did Ancestry.
Yeah. So I mean, but we never talk about like Hitler, and it's just every time you bring up CRISPR, like immediately for everyone to talk about Hitler,
because CRISPR's actionable. CRISPR's actionable, and I think because of that, it's a bigger threat. Also, with like sequencing, there are a lot of ethical like arguments going on about sequencing and making that public and making that private and whatever. But
agreed, yeah.
I think the major thing is that CRISPR can be acted with, and it's not just like, okay, you have this gene, but there are people and plenty of scientists who are concerned about like the ethical nature of people knowing their genetic sequence and who else can know that and stuff like that.
Yeah, because there's certainly, like, I remember there were a couple of examples of people whose parents had either Huntington's, which is just a fatal genetic illness, or I want to say Lee-Fraumeni syndrome, which is basically like you will get like 1 million cancers before you die, and you'll die early because you have 1 million cancers. Basically, if they got their genetic code sequence, if they were told what it all meant, they would have the earth-shattering knowledge that it's basically a ticking time bomb until they just drop dead one day because they develop a crippling illness. But that's the ethical part about sequencing, right? Like, is it ethical to tell people that? Are you going to change their quality of life, how they live? Are they just going to kill themselves because their death is imminent because their DNA encodes for it? Like, sequencing is certainly not without its ethical issues. But like Amber said, you could weaponize CRISPR, like the defense industry dude in the video. He's like, yeah, you could create a bioweapon off of this. Like, this is something you could absolutely apply into a variety of given situations to do all sorts of fucked up shit, whether it's eugenics or just overt bioterrorism. So it's like you said earlier, Greg, right? Like, we have the protein, we can send it wherever we want. We can just do shit with CRISPR right here, right now. Primers will be on your desk tomorrow by 10 a.m.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But we had the gene editing technology before this, and it's just like, it just seems
it's quicker. You said it yourself.
I
CRISPR,
agree. No, I mean,
quicker.
obviously I agree, but like, this wasn't some like, oh man, now we can genetically modify things with targeted DNA. Like, we've already been able to do that for, so I've never heard that discussion before CRISPR, and then now it's like, oh my god,
yeah,
that's fair.
I think it's because CRISPR is easier to understand than talons or zinc fingers or whatever. It's very digestible, and because it's more efficient and easier, and scientists are excited about it, and it's more in the public eye than other ways of editing genomes. I think that all ties together too.
So, where do people keep their CRISPR genes? I want to put money on the CRISPR drawer.
Well, you just gave Greg dad jokes for when his kids can understand molecular biology.
I already dude. I already explained it to him right now. My oldest can say the nucleotides of DNA, and it's cool. It's cool. I'm so optimistic about this stuff, and I think it's so cool. And it's just like, I agree that ethics should be in the discussion, and I'm not saying that it's not. And I think that it's, but I feel like it's a way for people to just kind of jump on something. And
I definitely agree thoroughly. Like, yeah, I'm right there with you, absolutely. But I was just like, I
appreciate you. I'm not,
yeah.
It's not your fault. I'm just saying, in general, it's like, maybe the discovery of CRISPR allowed us to have the bioethics conversations that we should have always been having, but we didn't have, and now we're having them now. Kind of sparked that, like a catalyst reaction or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I think that that point of consensus is probably a decent stopping point. We've been at it for 3 hours, you guys. Like,
solid.
Oh my god, really?
This is one of the better ones, I think.
Oh, nice.
It's because I'm here. Let's
True.
Nah, you're cool.
It's the World of Warcraft
Cool.
tattoos. I'll see you guys in Stormwind. You're raiding.
Oh my god.
Raiding stockades tonight. Let's go.
It's not a raid, it's a dungeon.
Oh my god.
Oh man,
Nerds.
I don't have muscles, I have nerd muscles. They're not there, but you
have
know.
brain folds.
I know so much about World of Warcraft lore.
Damn, dude, I'm gonna call you on Nixia because you just stabbed me in the back.
That'd be
All right.
Garona who murdered the King of Stormwind.
Oh my god, that's so good.
She actually stabbed him in the back. I can go for days, dude.
You just owned me.
15 years of my life. I went to BlizzCon twice.
Wow.
Ooh, lucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me go
Now
ahead
that
and
I've
wrap it up
really
before we have
embarrassed myself.
That's so
warring
funny.
Warcraft factions in the ministry here.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that was a pretty good episode. I definitely, I think we had a pretty robust discussion without a guest. So CRISPR was a very good topic selection. And of course, Gremlo, like, of course, you're not like the giant academic. So if there's anything like that comes to mind that like you want to fucking talk about, like, yeah, we could do Paul Ed sessions, like if you want to have a discussion on like fucking what identity or whatever you were talking about earlier with the rhizome, for example. I just throw that out there.
Yeah, if you want to still have a chat about the thing you wanted to chat about afterwards, just give me like 5 minutes after we wrap up.
Yeah,
Transracialism?
Totally.
Are we doing that?
Well, I don't even know. I just brought that
I
up.
already
as an
went through
example.
like 4 hours of post-stream stuff with that. I would rather not.
if we
Yeah,
do
we'll
go
save that
down
for
that
another day.
road towards like wanting to do something on like white identity stuff, I have a few people who do owe me favors, including one
Shit.
who literally wrote the book on this.
That'd be awesome.
I
Damn.
already have a question that someone has said to me multiple times that I would like to bring up and see opinions on it from people who are in that field. So I would be interested.
Yeah, I think this kind of goes out to both all of you folks in the panel and then all of chat. If there's something you want our takes on or you're just kind of curious about, and we could do some research, as it were, feel free to let us know, because we will certainly be looking for as much cool, interesting shit to talk about as humanly possible. So
are we doing the special guest I recommended next week or no?
I won't like spoil it verbally. Ping me again and ping Read and Rap again. If this was somebody that we like confirmed, then I would still be down for it. But if this is somebody we haven't actually scheduled yet, then we should probably talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of like topic selection, I don't think there's any particular order. But if we're like trying to get guests, then we should absolutely like confirm before we commit to anything. No, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for a rousing 3 hours of discussion. That was great as always. I'll give everybody an opportunity to go ahead and shout out their channels and plug something if you got something to plug. I will start with Amber, since you're the first on my screen.
DN Amber, twitch.tv, play lots of fun, exciting games and talk about science the whole time. So if you want to come chat and watch me be bad at video games, it's a hoot. I usually drink Monsters, so I'm very energetic when I'm streaming.
Right on. Greg, you're next.
Sure. I'm Greg. I have a YouTube channel called The Peer Review. You can get to there by going to www.thepeer.review. If you like this week, this is a good. I was just talking last week about how engineered virus-like particles were used in coordination with CRISPR to help solve genetic blindness. So it was a really cool application of CRISPR. And I just talk about, just like Professor Q said, it was like the best trailer for my YouTube channel, that I talk about all the cool things that are happening in science that nobody else is talking about. And I don't know why. And it's so much cool stuff happening. So come check me out.
You should spam your link to your stuff in the chats.
Okay. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I stream on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. PST. So.
Oh, I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sorry.
Cool.
I forgot to
That's
add
fine.
that.
Nice. Thanks. I was just doing a YouTube video here. Thanks, Amber. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Fuck. Cut. Rewind the video.
That's good.
Yeah.
Gremlo, go ahead.
Most everybody here in everyone's chats already knows me. Those of you who don't, I'm Gremlo. I am a politics, news, and React streamer. I stream Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Saturdays, we do community nights whenever I am feeling up to it. And you can give this little bean treats simply by gifting subs or bits whenever you come by. So, you guys can come hang out. We're going to hit 1K this month.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Professor Q.
I'm Professor Q. You can only find me here, visiting assistant professor of sociology, about to be non-tenure track teaching assistant professor. So that's the equivalent of getting a level up on my character sheet.
Nice.
And
Thank you for the translation.
I got tons of those, trust me. But you can only find me here, and that's the way I like it.
Wonderful. And I think, again, everybody knows me here at twitch.tv/homozygote. Basically, your general one-stop shop biology streamer. At some point, I'll be trying to incorporate weekend streams when things are less inconsistent and insane. Definitely still have the saga of the NIH giving money to some dude to take photos of string beans as like a project. Fucking bizarre.
We need to get in on that, man.
Yeah, I still have that working stream to do to fully dig into that. Yeah, it's fucking insane. But anyways, Ministry of Science again here, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. Now, this is the conclusion now of our 11th episode. We will keep you updated in Discord as to what the future episode might be like once we figured out a topic and possible guest. So everybody on the panel, thank you again for being here. Always appreciate it. Always appreciate your time and your big brain ideas.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Later, everybody.
Brain ideas.
All right, see ya.
Adios.
There we go.